The Three RoOs podcast. So, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about TV shows, probably a little bit of recap on vaccine stuff, most likely, and um, most likely aliens will get
Yeah,
involved there as well.
aliens.
Oh yeah,
Aliens.
too.
And we always end up talking about conspiracy theories too. So, um, today we started talking about Game of Thrones because I'm rewatching it, um, and it led to I don't think it was a heated text conversation, but a conversation about um, how the show had ended and some of our feelings about the show. So, Rich, how did you feel about how Game of Thrones ended?
So it was a little, in like hindsight, it was a little dramatic, but I canceled my subscription to HBO right after because I was so
Okay.
pissed off.
See that as we were talking about yesterday, that is the crazy reaction.
I was so pissed off. I couldn't give him any more money. It was just like, I mean, look, I was a huge Game of Thrones fanatic. Like fanatical about it. I didn't read the books, so I was fanatical about the show. I tried reading the books, but like a lot of books that I start, I never like my like attention span just kind of shifts. I want to start reading something else. And um so yeah, I was just fanatical about it. I had like the beers, the wines, and like the just I knew everything. I probably watched every episode, no joke, from seasons 1 through 5. I probably watched every episode at least 3 times.
God damn.
Some episodes more than that because I would just like I'd be making dinner and I would be like I would throw on an episode so it'd be like the Battle of the Wall in the background. I did that like 40 times when making dinner, right? Of course I was like living alone and single at the time, but uh so I love that show. I like knew it so well. And then yeah, and I think once DB and Benioff took over, it just went downhill. And I think
When did
you
that
know,
happen? Like,
seasons like 8, or sorry, no, seasons like maybe 6, 7, 8.
okay,
They got to a point where like they had gone beyond the books. And I think George, what the hell's his name, dude? George,
Martin.
Martin.
yeah, George Martin. I was gonna say George Tolkien. George
Nope, that's
Martin,
JR.
yeah, he was like, I guess, advising them on like the direction he thought it should go. And I guess there were some disagreements there, but I think it was like 6, 7, and 8, definitely 7 and 8, where they had like really veered off. And I think you and I talked about this. I was like, at the end of every episode, it'd be like inside the episode, and they would always talk themselves up, like, "Oh, so we knew we had to get here, so we did this genius thing, and we did this." I'm like, it fucking sucked.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, so my comment to you there is why even watch that if it gets you mad?
I shouldn't know. I don't. I think I was just like looking at, yeah, I was just looking for some sort of confrontation, even though they definitely didn't hear me yelling at the TV. But yeah, I just think the way it ended. Should we just say spoiler alert? I guess we should just, yeah, this way we're uncuffed. So spoiler alert, here on out, we might say some stuff that's going to ruin the show. So tune out if you haven't finished it. But yeah, I mean the fact that like Jon Snow, I think it was awesome that he's a Targaryen. The fact that he like basically what goes back to being on the wall, and you're like, oh, it came full circle.
Right.
Um, the brother Bronn. I mean,
Brandon.
you talk about
Bran.
fucking, yeah, Bran. Yeah, I love Bronn, the other guy. Yeah, Bran. Do you talk about fucking worthless? By the way, like literally all of that for
I
no
feel like
reason.
the books must have played his story a lot
Oh
better.
God, I hope so.
Yes and no. So it's been a long time since I've read the books. I cannot remember if he finished with the Three-Eye Raven in the books. Like I think that was
Mm.
a dead storyline. I
Yeah,
want to say that was a dead storyline.
Are the books done now?
the show too.
He's fallen into spin-offs in the books, just like in the show. So he wrote a spin-off
Mm.
on the Targaryens, and then he wrote another spin-off. And he keeps claiming that he's come out at this point and been like, yeah, I don't know how I'm gonna finish it. So it's never gonna get finished.
It's probably like the show's already fucking over and it ruined everybody's opinion on this.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
Well, but you know what though? The what's that? The new show.
I watched
Um,
The House of Dragons.
yeah.
I watched 3 episodes of it, and then I had a baby and never got back
That
to
was
it.
that. I haven't watched any, but I think like the premiere was I think the most highly watched show on HBO or something like that. I could be totally making that up, but
It
I'm
was
pretty
up there.
sure it
No,
was. Yeah,
it
it
was
was.
up there.
Yeah. So people, I guess, people like me maybe got turned off to it, which is a little silly, I guess, that I'm like now just over the universe. I would come back if they did like Robert's War. I would probably come back for that.
When
I
Ned
see that's
Stark
what
was younger.
yeah, so that's what I always wanted to see, and I'm so upset that that's not where they went, was
Uh-huh.
just back to the war, the battle beforehand, because I like that's where it got cool. Like seeing the Mad King, seeing Jamie betray him,
Yeah.
seeing Robert take the throne.
That
You
would
could
be
have an
cool.
action pack, like you could do it in 2 seasons, 20 episodes, and it could be so action packed too.
People
You
would
could even
love
do
that too.
you could
Yeah.
even do it as a miniseries. You could even do it as
Yeah.
a miniseries, just do the war. If you wanted to do like a build up and war, cool, but you could do it just as the war and just do it as a season.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So I
mean, you
guess
got to
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
But no, I was going to kind of like transition a little bit, but
I
same
was I was
topic,
just
but
gonna say like
transition.
you would have to do like Ned Stark's dad and his brother, right? Because they got killed. You'd have to probably do a little bit of history on the Mad King because he was like a big part of his legend was a big part of Game of Thrones, and you see him for like a second when Bran is, I guess, going back in time. So you'd have to have some character development, but then like the battles would be cool. The battle of the what is it called? The battle of
The Trident.
the Trident would be there. A young King. Dude, I guess it has been a while because I'm blanking on names right now. King Robert. Robert Baratheon, seeing him like young and strong and not just like a fat lush. That'd be interesting. So there'd be a lot of cool parts to it that they probably should develop. But I think, yeah, if you did like a mini series, that would be cool. Seeing something about like the Martell family and where they're from.
Oberyn
Uh
Martell.
Oberyn Martell,
Dorn.
dude, he was
You
such an
raped
awesome
her.
character.
You murdered her.
Yeah, say her name.
I can't wait for that part. I think we just got to the season 4, episode 2 we watched last night. So
Is season 4 or season 5 when he comes to
4.
I
He
think
he just entered the picture at the beginning of 4.
he's so good.
okay, but he
He's such a
dies in
good character.
5, right?
I haven't got there yet, but I know it's right after
I thought
that, right?
I think he died in 4 even. I don't
He
think he
died in the
played
same
in 2
season.
season.
He's
Okay.
not
I
in
can't
very
remember.
long.
It's been so long. It's so crazy. So Rich, you mentioned how you'd watched each episode 3 times. Literally, I used to watch like when a season was coming out and you knew the date, I'd watch the entire series up to that point again. So season
Holy
1 I
shit.
saw 8
Oh
times.
wow.
Season 2 I saw
Wow.
7 times. Season 3 I saw 6 times.
Yeah.
Like that's how crazy it was. I stopped because the last 2 seasons they weren't bad. Like if you watch them as TV shows, they weren't bad. Certain episodes that people were like highly touting, I don't think were that great.
I love the bastards.
The episode, I personally thought the Battle of the Bastards was overrated. I'll say it. I thought it was an overrated episode.
It was like a little over the top. Like I
It
know they were
was.
trying to.
Well, and then what was the Battle at the Castle episode where it was so dark you couldn't even see what was happening?
That was
That was
when they were fighting the White Walkers right near the end.
yeah, near the end there. That was
Everyone
another
hated
one.
that one.
That was
Everyone
another one
hated
where I
that
was like,
one.
I'm watching a black screen for 20 minutes. So
Well,
like,
this is where they're like the battle of fuck, dude. Winter.
I don't know.
Winterfell.
Oh my god, Winterfell. Yeah,
I can't remember.
this is like the last season where
So
the
the
White
big
Walkers show
one,
up.
so the big letdowns for me, now granted, again, this is me having read the books and knowing some of the side stories. The proverbial I don't remember what it was coined as, but it essentially was when the Mountain and the Hound were supposed to fight. That was supposed to be like
Yeah.
the be all end all battle, and that lasted a whole 10 minutes. Like that was not a great scene in the show. The fact that in the, like I mentioned the other day, in the books, there's rumors of another Targaryen that's a brother of Viserys and Daenerys or something along those. I can't remember the complete, again, I haven't read one of the books in years either. There's a lot more leaning towards Tyrion being a Targaryen because his mother was raped by Targaryens. So there's just a lot of other Easter eggs. Lady Stoneheart, not super important. Like to me, I didn't really care too much. Like she's a cool character. She's brought back from the dead. But you see the Brotherhood without banners like 3 times in the show, and you see
Yep.
Beric Dondarrion like twice, and they're pointless. And the Lady in Red, kind of important early on, but gets pointless. She's not pointless with the Lady Stoneheart. So there's a lot of things that they brought into the show that at the time were like, okay, let's do this, and then they ended up being pointless.
Well, the Lady in Red's still pretty important I would say
I mean,
all the way
she did
until she like
kill.
revives Jon Snow, right?
Yes,
Until after that,
yes.
then she's probably
Then she fizzles.
yeah. And so that hasn't happened yet at the beginning of season 4.
No, so that is when the last book ends with Jon Snow dying. That's where the books end.
Got it.
So from there on out, it's all Rich's buddies DB and Benny off.
Can you guys hear my fan on my computer right now? I was
No.
fucking okay, because it's so loud for me, and I was fucking my mic to make sure you can hear it. Okay.
No, you're good.
The
But
Red
no,
Bull
it
was like my
reminds me,
celebrity crush for a
honestly,
while.
Game of Thrones transitioned into another Lost. Lost to me, like the first 3 seasons of Lost was so good, so good.
Weren't you
And then you
obsessed with that in
started.
college? Like,
Oh
you
my
were
God,
like,
I loved
yeah.
it. Me and
Yeah,
Justin,
so-
You and Justin, yeah.
me and Justin
Yeah.
used to watch it all the time, and like it was so good, amazing. And then the writer's strike happened, and season 4 was absolutely terrible. And then season 5 was absolutely terrible. And then season 6, they're like, we're finishing it, and everybody's like, you're telling me we have 50,000 loose ends, and you're gonna finish it in 15 episodes? It was just like, okay, cool. So I spent 5 seasons wondering about a goddamn polar bear, and now forget about it. So
I guess to get into our conversation last night about how some people get like pissed off to like canceling their HBO membership or
Like
whatever
me,
or
yeah.
subscription, and that was just so baffling to me. But I guess hearing you guys describe how much you actually watched the show. I mean, I think I watched it like once and then watched it as they were coming out, but I didn't like go back and watch the whole fucking
Oh
show.
no, dude, I
before.
was invested. I was
Yeah.
I mean, I was gonna say,
invested.
before my wife and I met, she had watch parties with people she worked with every week, and then they still, through like the last season when we were together, she still had text chains with these people every week, people she hadn't seen in like 3 years. They still weekly text about it. Like there's, and I feel like the biggest part is like I can't think of many shows in our lifetime that so many people have gravitated to. And
Yeah.
then granted, like nowadays, yeah, everything's streamed and everything's a video dump, and who can watch it the quickest and then go back and rewatch it. And then you go watch the YouTubes of all the Easter eggs, and then you look for the spin-offs, and then you like, I get all that, but that was like peak episodic television. Like I can't even think of anything now. Granted, I'm way behind the times, don't have cable, don't have time to keep up with series. I don't think I have any show that I am actively up to date on at this point in time. But like I feel like between that, like that was the time frame when everybody was doing week to week. That was week to week. That was the start of Westworld. That was Breaking Bad. I mean, Breaking
Walking
Bad,
Dead still around too.
Walking Dead. Talk
Oh,
about
that's
a
probably
show
the tail end of
man.
Walking Dead.
No, that was just the beginning of Walking Dead. Walking Dead just ended like 2 years ago.
I
That
only
ended up
watched
being
That
like,
show was awesome when it started.
I watched
and
the
then
first
got
3
terrible.
seasons.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it got so terrible so fast. It got so terrible, and then they did spin-offs of it, which made it even worse. But no, I think Game of Thrones was like probably higher up than Breaking Bad. I think Breaking Bad was pretty high up there, though, as people who watched it actively as it came out weekly, glued themselves to the TV for finales.
What came out first?
Game
Breaking
of
Bad
Thrones
ended first.
Breaking Bad ended first, but I think Game of Thrones came out first. Let me check.
Okay, because I remember. So I started Breaking Bad. I'm not done with it. I'm on season like, what is that? 5 seasons. So I'm on like 3, or maybe a 6, and I'm on 4. So Breaking Bad is a good show. It's a great show.
Breaking Bad was 08 to 2013. Game of Thrones was 2011 to 2019. So Breaking Bad was out first.
And 5 seasons.
Yeah.
Okay. People freaked out about it. And I will say, here's my take. I think it's a great show. I think because maybe I watched Game of Thrones before I watched Breaking Bad, I wasn't captivated. And maybe also just because of the kind of stuff that I like. I wasn't captivated with Breaking Bad the way that I was captivated with Game of Thrones. Like I became obsessed with Game of Thrones. Breaking Bad.
I mean, I think though those are 2 very different stylistic shows.
Fair.
Breaking Bad was a slow burn.
Very
Breaking
slow.
Bad had a lot of big character development. Breaking Bad had a lot of heavy, deep storylines, and Game of Thrones is like, who's getting their head chopped off on live TV this week?
Everyone dies in episode. Yeah.
Right. So
where I'm
like
at now is like Gus came into the picture. They've been doing some dealings now. They have that lab built out
I mean,
underground.
Breaking Bad, the reason I really in the drama world, I hold Breaking Bad in the top of top tiers of television show. It is the perfect length of a TV show. I call it 6 seasons, they call it 5, but season 5 is in 2 parts, so it's 6 seasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
I never sat through a season and was like, this is a struggle to get through. Like every season is good.
Mm.
The finale, in my opinion, is quite possibly one of the, I wouldn't call it most captivating. I wouldn't call it most edge of your seat. I wouldn't call it like hold your breath, but it just was one of the best wrap up.
I agree.
That's what needed to happen episodes of a TV show, period.
Yeah, Rich, I think you would have liked it more if it was 2011 or 2012 still, and you were watching it every week, and people were
Yes.
talking about it, and
Yeah.
right,
Now
you're
I have
watching
like
it
no
10
one
years
to.
later, and
It
Yeah,
definitely falls into the
that's
category
true.
of not really, and people will do it, but people will binge it. Like I don't think even today, if I were to rewatch Breaking Bad, I would binge it. I think I would watch 2, 3 episodes, give it a few days, 2, 3 episodes. Like it's not something you can sit and consume an entire season at a time and be like, all right, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen?
Yeah.
Um,
It's good. I think you're right. I think having no one to talk about it with probably does change because I feel like, even Game of Thrones, like I remember working in the city and then like you go into the office and everyone would just be talking about it.
right.
Right. What happened in the last episode? Some asshole. I read the books and like, they would shit on every single episode. But like if it was like it was fun, right? It's like Game of Thrones to me was basically like what Harry Potter is to some kids, where they like wear the stupid capes and they like have the little wands and like they're running
Stupid.
around.
I love the Harry Potter
dude, Harry
games.
Potter's a fantastic series.
I
Now,
read I read all the
now,
books in like a day or two when they came out.
now, J.K.
Did you
Rowling,
really?
dude,
Yeah,
I used to read them all like
I
that.
guess
Dude,
back
J.K.
in the day
Rowling.
I was into it. I got to sorry, I saw me keep, but like, I got to the third one. After that, I don't know. I
Oh,
was
the
like,
third one is probably the best book, in my opinion. I think Prisoner of Azkaban is the best book. Hands down.
I think I finished it, but then I got to just a point where I didn't care about people waving wands and
The last book is like half the book is them just camping. So but the end of the last book is fantastic. It makes up for it.
I
Like
like
the end.
Goblet of Fire. I think the most.
Goblet of Fire is a really good book too. J.K. Rowling has an issue. She's got a new pen name now. She's writing a whole new like murder mystery genre, which the books are okay, but she's doing the same thing as she did in Harry Potter, where she takes a book that she could write in 350 pages and she writes it in 900 pages. Like
she's
these
become
books,
like a hated figure now too by like some people.
she's a kind of terrible human being, but that's for a whole nother.
Was it politically correct thing or something?
Yeah, yeah. But no, like I just read her most recent one, and it was I think 1,150 pages or something like that. And I finished reading it, and I looked at my wife, and I was like, "Good book, great storyline. The mystery in the storyline is fantastic. This book could have been 400 pages." There's just so much extraneous stuff.
Do you read? Do you think you well? Do you read?
I read all the time.
I read all the time.
I read roughly 2 books a month, and then now that I'm home most of the time, and the kid is mobile and everything, and I can't have like background noise, I usually audiobook another one. So I go through about 3 books a month. When I was at home during the beginning of COVID and like couldn't work and was at home for 6 months, I read 40 books in 6 months.
Damn, dude.
I was reading a book a week almost, sometimes quicker. So I love reading.
I was watching Tiger King. I think the only book that I think I remember reading during COVID. No, I read a couple actually. So The Turtle Trader.
Oh yeah, you recommended that to me at one point.
Yeah.
What in the world? Wait a minute. I got The Turtle Trader.
It's not about.
It's about like trading, like actually like equities and.
I listened to that one. I didn't read it.
Yeah, you listened to that. Well, let me ask you. So, wait, do you consider audiobooks like reading though?
I can consider learning. I wouldn't consider actually.
I think you're consuming information or my audiobooks are usually my more informative ones, like not fiction, like fantasy type books. My audiobooks are usually a nonfiction or an informational.
Well, that's what I was going to ask actually. So it's like if you read, yes, like do you read mostly fiction or nonfiction?
I'm probably 60-40 fiction.
Okay.
Nonfictions aren't bad. They just get dense sometimes.
I don't read anything right now. Most of my stuff is podcasts or I'll listen to books, but it's all like David Goggins or
Yeah.
people like that. It's nothing nonfiction. Okay, I always get
Fiction.
yeah,
I'm
fiction,
Fiction.
100% nonfiction, which I do need to change it up. I do need to probably get some fiction in there. For me, it's like I don't read as much as I should. So when I do, I kind of want to like I don't know, just like learn new stuff. So it's a lot of history books, it's a lot of war memoirs. But dude, during COVID, one book that I read, The Saga of Hugh Glass. So the guy from The Revenant.
Mm.
Yeah.
So that's where we're in space now. Dude, The Revenant only scratches on this guy's life. And
Yeah.
like it's not totally accurate, but if you read the saga of Hugh Glass, it is a fucking mind-blowing story. Like this is what I was saying, like the guys that lived in the Roman times, like the lives that men lived back then are like just absolutely insane. Like they're larger than life. It's incredible. And like when you look at the saga of Hugh Glass, okay, the guy was captured by pirates. Okay. He escapes with a buddy. They get captured by some tribe down in like Texas or something like that. His buddy gets stuck with a thousand pine needles lit on fire. That's how he dies. He saves his life by trading vermilion for essentially his life. He goes off. He goes and lives with like another tribe. I can't remember the name of the tribe. Oh fuck, the Sioux wipe this tribe out. Um, whatever tribe that his son was from in the movie. He goes and he like whatever does his thing there, becomes like a fur trader, but like, and the whole story is about him. Like there was like a battle that was fought between the Native Americans, not the one that I think was in the movie, or the one in the movie might have been based off of it. But the guys, I mean, if you track where this guy went, we're talking like thousands of miles, but just the story is insane. And it's not a long book. So if you want to audiobook it, or if you actually want to read it, I highly recommend the Saga of Hugh Glass.
I mean, it
That
sounds like you should never travel with him. He gets captured a lot. That's what I'm
for real
getting
though.
out of
No,
that.
for real, dude. Not a guy you want to be near. Then
Right.
the other book that I read was The Way of Men, which dude, this is the craziest thing too. So the guy who wrote it is considered an alt-right guy. Because he's a homosexual guy, and he wrote a book saying, or he wrote something saying that homosexual men don't have to be like act feminine. So now, like, I'm sure he did some other things too that kind of made him catch some flack. So I always want to preface the fact that like I was cognizant of this after I read the book. But the
He's just currently, no worries. He's just currently like registered by the
like the
FBI,
FBI
Homeland Security. You're like,
for reading
watch
his
out for
book.
this Rizzy kid. Like
Yeah.
he's checking out these
He
books.
read about The Way of Men. Um, but he basically says like what is masculinity, and he breaks it down into like four areas, and he breaks this down by, so there's kind of like two ways. There's being good at being a man and being a good man. So there's the moral piece, and there's like another piece of it. And he breaks it down into ways that are shared across cultures. Those are like the three books that I read during COVID, which I also, frankly, I would recommend this book because it's super interesting. It doesn't have to do with this like whole like toxic masculinity or anything like that. It's not saying, hey, be an alcoholic that works on cars, that makes you a manly man. Nothing like that. But anyway, I should
Yo,
read
no
more. I should
joke
read more
though.
fiction.
Listen, I have never felt more manly. It sounds cheesy, but it happens. So my lawnmower basically shit the bed a couple weeks ago. Like the engine seized, which I don't know if you guys know what that means, but it's
Yes.
it's supposed to be a death warrant for
You gave it
your
CPR and resurrected it?
I literally like I Jimmy rigged it, dude. So I pulled the spark plug out of it. I found these. It's basically WD-40 on crack. It's WD-40, but it doesn't dissolve. So I sprayed that into where the spark plug was.
Like starter fluid?
No, it's like a lubricant, like a super lubricant. So I did that. I emptied the oil, I re-put oil in, and then I just fucking hammered on the starter. And finally it just started, blew a shit ton of white smoke. I gave like this primal scream in my driveway. I was like,
That's awesome.
I'm like covered in oil and soot and shit.
But
I was
see,
like,
like, dude, that's my point. It's like that's my point. It's almost like, okay, that makes you feel manly, which yeah, that's a W. I'll give that to you, right? But then it's like, then you have guys like Hugh Glass that's like, yeah, I just like traversed thousands of miles across the mountain, fought a bunch of like Native Americans with a knife, like lived.
yeah, but
Gaius
don't you
Caesar is
think
like,
like
You have to
I
be
just
put in that
concentrate
situation.
fall.
I mean, I
Right.
don't know.
Again, but also don't you think like
Luckily,
like
you'll never have to deal with that, I guess.
yeah, that's a cool thing to do, but like I don't ever want to have to deal with it. Would you if you had let's do the two pills, pill one where you stay where you are and you go to the grocery store for food or even go out and hunt, but like if you don't catch
Yeah.
anything, you go to the grocery store for food, or pill two, you have to go back in time where if you don't catch anything, you die.
Well, no, fuck yeah, I would say here, but I would say a guy from back then would beat the shit out of like so many people
Most
today.
99% of us.
Yeah, 90. They would fucking truck you. They also do. They would laugh their asses off at us.
No,
So-
just give them a quick math equation, and while they're thinking about it, kick them in the nuts. Then you beat them. It's fine. They don't know how to do simple math, man.
Even
They're
our,
good.
even our posture today is probably like laughable
What
compared
do you
to
mean, like
guys
this?
Yeah, there's always on a computer, like testosterone.
Did you see
all-time
that
low.
humans are like having an issue in the back of their neck now?
Oh, yeah, the
'cause they're
bump.
always they're having a bump because they're always
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah, from the
Yeah,
phone.
give yourself a
mostly,
double
right?
chin when you
And then
work.
so there's the bump on the neck, and then there's the bend in
Oh,
the
the finger thing. Yeah, that's a real thing, dude. I had that on my pinky.
I haven't
Yeah.
seen that.
It's like
There's
it's like
two
if
of
you
them
were to
because
look at
based on your phone.
like
Yeah,
there's a
so
dent.
yeah,
'Cause when you hold your phone, it like you rest it on your pinky.
yeah,
So like between those two knuckles,
yep.
it gives like a little bit of a dent. I don't know how you hold your phone.
Yeah, I just picked it up to figure out how I held it.
Yeah, somebody like had said that.
So
What's it called?
the two books that I read,
Yeah.
Cam Haynes. Did you read Cam Haynes' book?
No, who's that?
What? You don't know who Cam Haynes is and you hunt?
No,
Bro.
Cam Haynes.
Bro. And you listen to Rogan, you don't know who Cam Haynes is?
Wow.
Seth, you know who Cam Haynes is?
I have no idea, but I don't hunt or listen to Rogan really.
Lift, run, shoot. I like this guy already.
This dude's like the best bow hunter in the country.
Oh yeah, dude. Rogan talks about him all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Really
Rogan's
good
with
book.
him.
And he runs ultra
Rogan's jacked.
marathons. So his book was a little too geared towards hunting for me because
Okay.
I haven't hunted, but the way he hunts makes me want to try it once or twice.
Bro,
Like,
we have to.
Does he
hunt
do?
together.
Wait, does he do like the old school like track and?
Yeah, goes out in the middle of the wilderness. All he does, he trains, runs, and lifts just to be a better hunter.
That's fucking
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
I've not done that kind of hunting.
I never got more pissed off than when someone would come into Dick's when I was working there and they'd like claim they're this super fisherman and then they go buy a fucking $500 fish finder. Like, no, you are not a fisherman then.
So
Yeah.
you should listen to Cam Haynes' book or just like read up on him. The dude,
Yeah, let me
dude's
put
a
it-
beast.
Dude, we should go hunting together. We should go out to like
But I want to
Iowa
do
or
it
South Dakota
like
and hunt.
big ass elk. Like,
Well,
and-
that's like we should start small. If you've never hunted, we should start with like pheasant.
Yeah,
Okay,
you start
but-
simple.
Yeah, or like
But not
dove or
easy.
something like that.
not something where they like lure him in and you just like have a field like shooting fish in a bear or whales in a
No,
bear.
like
or whatever.
we'll walk in. They have these. You go to a ranch. You'll like stay at this ranch. You'll drink whiskey and play poker at night. In the morning, you get up with the dogs. You go out
That's
to
a
the
fucking
field.
dream. That's
You're
I'd
walking,
do
you're
that.
walking, dude. That's what I want.
I
to
would
do
do
when
that.
Grow up.
I would
But,
100%.
we
You
should
are
do it,
grown up.
dude.
What are you talking about?
No, like when I'm like in my 50s and I want to like get out of the corporate world, I want to be like a dog trainer and or something like that. But I'll bring my dog and we'll go out there. She's trained. We'll go out. We'll shoot some pheasant hopefully.
Yeah, what we should do is
That's
first
fun.
go to just a
Rich's
range because I haven't shot a gun in
bachelor
almost
party.
10 years. Yeah,
10
Rich,
years?
I just heard your bachelor
So,
party.
actually, I was kicking that idea around. And I wasn't sold on it yet. I was going to ask you guys because the other thing was like, do I want to go to Vegas and shoot like an M60 out of a helicopter? But that's like probably
Bro,
a little too expensive for
That shit is
everybody. Just to say,
ridiculously
"Hey."
expensive.
Yeah,
I was looking
I
at
know,
it
I
for
know.
Texas to shoot like hogs out of a
It's like
helicopter.
$1,200, right?
An hour.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I'm not
go
going to
ahead
ask
and be.
you.
I'm gonna go
person.
ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and be busy that weekend.
No, but we should, dude. Honestly, we should. Honestly, even this fall, even if it's not the bachelor
Yo,
party,
can
we
you?
should just
So
go
let me
out
ask
there
you
and
this:
do it.
how can you? I guess you pay just the out of state permit for the weekend.
No,
for
if
hunting.
you're on a ranch, if you're on private property, you don't.
Oh
need to
yeah,
hunt.
then you don't need any.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if we're just doing pheasant or something, you don't need tags, I
Yeah,
assume. Or...
I'll look into it. We could do that. We could do dove is in September, but let's start with like pheasant, dude. Like we'll do it in the fall. We'll shoot some pheasant. We'll cook them there. We'll just like play cards and have
drink
whiskey. At
whiskey.
night.
Hell yeah.
Maybe
Seth, you
record
haven't
an
shot in
episode.
10 years? Oh, you
Not
shot
a
at
very
my
long
house.
time.
You
I
shot
did
at
not
my-
because I need a
didn't shoot.
lefty.
No, last time you shot, bro, was my birthday when I turned like 24. We went to
24,
the
yeah. So it was about 10 years. Yeah, because I
Shit.
shoot lefty, and so when we were at your place, you were only going with the semi-autos, and shooting lefty with a semi-auto is very dangerous because you're going to catch
Oh.
something in your face.
shell. Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to catch a shell in your face. It's just
I think I
going
had
to
a pump though
happen.
for you though, right? I think I had a pump.
We did a pump. We did a pump. And pumps are much better because you can pump away from it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, we should.
But yeah, I
go.
haven't shot in a very long time.
Dude, hunting though, I will say this: like hunting, some people are gonna call me crazy, but I think when you do hunt, your senses like come to light. Like they're so much better. Your
That's
hearing is better. Your sight is better.
that's why I want to do like the elk hunt. Like you're out in the middle of the fucking woods for 2 or 3 days, and you're
Yeah,
tracking this motherfucker, and
I
it's
can
just
only imagine
you in the
that.
Dude, it's also
wilderness.
just an escape from society, man. It's escape from
Yeah,
everything. Like, yeah,
touch grass.
I'm gonna go pick up poop and smell it and be like, it went this way.
Well, you
Dude,
can do that,
that's
Seth. I'm gonna avoid doing
yeah,
that.
You
in
guys
my
will be like, all right, we're
backyard with
going
the
the other way.
dogs.
Well, I heard you actually have to lick it, so Seth will be the poop. Poop
Damn.
guy.
Dude, you have, but I think that
Yeah.
that level of like being able to track something and also like to know where it went. You're like, okay, it broke like these twigs or whatever. It went that way when there's like a blood trail following that. Like I followed a blood trail, and that took a lot of concentration. I was ahead of my skis on that one. And I don't even think I found it until like later on. I like totally went past it, but it was a fucking dove too. It wasn't even a deer. Um, and Dude, but I can only imagine because you have to track it, plus you have to make sure it doesn't find you or smell you or
Well, you got to
hear.
remember too, like true tracking, like not the tracking of I've shot it and I've got to find out where it's got to so I can end it, but like true, you are searching for it. It's
Yeah, when
it's
it's
more
healthy.
than it's more than oh look, it's a broken twig. Like you need to know the behaviors of these animals. Are they
Yeah,
pack animals? Are they circular animals? Are they broad spread? Like there's so much that goes. It's
yeah.
ridiculous.
It's
Did you
crazy
guys?
that like that stuff was lost on us. So like generate. Think about it, dude. For thousands of years, these skills were passed on, and it's probably only within the last couple hundred years, not even that
Less,
these
yeah,
were like almost
less.
like lost
I
entirely.
mean, and it goes even past hunting though. Like think of like the Freemasons and shit. You're talking any one of these
Yeah,
like
true.
blue collar, like hard work, like craftsman style jobs where like there's not a book on Freemasonry. It was passed down. That's how it went. And
Yeah,
once there's no more of them, people aren't going to be able to do that. And it's the
yeah,
same with tracking. Like once these people are gone, if it's not it's farm life, right? Like you don't wake up in the morning and go, I'm going to go to college to be a farmer. You wake up in the morning because your parents owned a farm and now you are set to work on that farm because you live there, and then you learn about it, and then eventually it's handed down to you, and if the hand down doesn't happen, the farm goes away.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
part of just advancing society and technology, though. It's
Yeah,
it's a
I mean,
byproduct of
well,
that.
so farming is like it's getting, I don't want to say eaten up because it's not this, it's sad for farmers because that was their life and now it doesn't have to be their life. Like they can go do something and still be lucrative, but like I mean, I knew guys in my hometown growing up who like that was they woke up with the sun and then they went and they hand milked X number of cows, and now
Yeah.
you've got these big companies that can you plug and chug,
It's probably
and
part of their identity too. Like
exactly. Well, that's what it is. It's yes, it's their business and their livelihood and whatnot, but it's also who they are, right?
yeah, I feel like their father and his father, like it's
Right. The
probably
story
yeah,
behind it.
yeah, that's true.
One more
Okay,
story on
so
hunting. One more, and then I got my second book. But the do you hear the Rogan episode with Derek Wolf?
I
I
might
think
have,
he's
I
a
don't know.
linebacker or lineman in the NFL or was.
He's definitely an NFL guy. Name's familiar.
Rogan talks about him being like a Viking type dude. One, he talked about taking mushrooms before most of his NFL games, the latter half of his career, which was
Really?
crazy. Yeah, he said he would take it, and Rogan's like, "Dude, you're a fucking Viking," like that's what Vikings
Yeah,
used
it's
to
going
do.
berserk.
But he was telling a story about I forget who he went hunting with, but they were chasing down. Can't remember if they were hunting elk and they found a mountain lion or they were hunting the mountain lion, but they're going up a mountain, and he said he had to he's like a 300-pound dude, the snow was so deep he had to crawl for hours. And at one point he was like following some guy, and at one point he like looked up and this cat was in the tree above him. And he's like, I don't know what to fucking do. I shot the motherfucking thing and I just prayed it died, like with a bow
Yeah.
too, not with
Oh
a gun.
wow, really?
And then they had to bring it back down. He's like, again, the snow is too deep. I had to throw it on my back and I'm crawling down the fucking mountain. Like,
Holy shit, that's a man. That's a
yeah,
man.
it's a good episode. It was a couple months ago. We should listen to that one.
That's like a Nephilim, not even a
Dude,
man.
speaking of mushrooms, did you see FDA came out with guidance for clinical trials of psychedelics?
Good,
I,
good.
I saw I saw like on Twitter that there's these like packages of it says like mushrooms now.
Oh,
Like
bro, they're
edibles.
That shit's everywhere now. Especially
So
like in
it's
state of New York.
so the big studies currently are for PTSD.
Yep. And depression and
Um,
anxiety.
I there was an episode of Pat McAfee's show. They were talking to it's a guy who owns PXG, a golfing company. He had gone to Vietnam, and he said that he did a 3-day stretch where he did mushrooms, he did LSD, and he did ayahuasca in that 3 days. And he said after those 3 days, and this was in like 2012, 2013 that he did these or whatever. Don't quote me on it. Go watch the episode. But he's like, I finally came home from Vietnam.
Yeah.
Like it's huge what they're doing. It's amazing.
Tim Ferriss, I don't know if you know him. I've been listening to his podcast forever. He's been helping fund a lot of research into like MDMA and psilocybin usage in treating.
Psilocybin's a big one. MDMA is a good one. I'm
and
excited for it.
Huberman's talking about it too a lot.
I think it's awesome. I think it's one of those things where it's going to catch a lot of flack from people who are like, oh no, people are going to abuse it, blah, blah, blah.
People are just seeing rainbows.
This is why you do the research, though. This is what drives me so nuts. This is why it's the same you saw with marijuana. Don't get me wrong. Marijuana can be abused. And when it's abused, you do a number on your body. Not like I know firsthand from certain people in my circle who have abused marijuana and ended up in the hospital because of it.
Damn.
No comment. Yeah, it's called cyclic vomiting. So if you abuse THC, your stomach gets so fucked up that you just can't stop vomiting. My dad ended up in the hospital twice because of it. Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say, was it because of the marijuana though, or was it because he only had?
So the big problem. No. So the big problem was people now get THC in vape form. So vaping is the absolute worst thing in the entire world. It is concentrated whatever you are smoking. It's concentrated
Vaping,
THC.
Smoking, and then
correct. It's concentrated THC. It's concentrated nicotine. It's concentrated whatever you want to put into your body. So it's so bad for you. People are like, oh yeah, it doesn't smell like a cigarette. Doesn't feel like a cigarette. So let me hit it as much as up. No, it's horrible for you. And so he was hitting a vape pen that had THC in it, but he was hitting it like a joint, which means long drags, hold it, cough it out. He ended up smoking, and he was, I mean, to his defense, he was using it as pain management, as marijuana. Again, I am a very big proprietor of marijuana for medicinal purposes, cancer, pain management, all those types of things. But when it's abused, you do end up getting sick, and that's going to be the case with anything that you put in your body. But when I saw that today about the psychedelics, I was like, this is fucking awesome. Like it's time.
Guided medical guided trips, microdose trips for people dealing with PTSD and everything. It's fucking amazing.
I've seen like people that are terminal. They're giving them like guided acid trips, and they like they're coming to terms with the fact that they're going to pass, and that they're almost like accepting of it.
I mean, right? I don't know. We're talking about things that too. PTSD has been around for how long? And no one's even come close to exactly. And no one's even come close to figuring out a way to snap people from that. And now you have a chance to do it. And certain people are going to be like, nope, can't do it because in the 60s, that was the devil's lettuce. So that's what's infuriating is like, maybe just open your eyes. Like, yes, you do need to slap some guidelines on it. You do need to slap some guidelines on everything. Again, cigarettes are legal. Alcohol is legal. I'm sitting here drinking a beer telling you that, These are all things that are dangerous when abused. Anything can be dangerous when abused.
So my parents are from that generation, I think, where it's like, there's like the beatniks, right? And then there's like the people that kind of like live that leave it to beaver type, Andy Griffith type, black and white. Everything's black and white, right? It's like, this is good, this is bad, there's no in between.
Right.
And I remember you guys know, right? When we first went to college, like I was like so anti marijuana.
Tyler,
you were too, Tyler, right? Remember? As time has gone on though, like I mean, I remember too, like, you see like the movies growing up, or like the way my parents talked about it. It was like if somebody was high, or that guy's a pothead, like they look down on them, or if someone was high,
they're hippies,
like or you think they'd be like delirious people. Dude, half the time I met a high person in college, they were just like sitting on a couch, just like cracking up laughing. They were able to carry on a conversation. They weren't saying like, crazy outlandish stuff the way that somebody who was blackout drunk was. I mean, maybe they'd have some ideas that were like really out of the box and they're funny, but they weren't like saying stuff that they were really regretting because they
might have had a few more snacks or something,
Yeah, they had a few more snacks. I mean, but like, it was fine. It was
so
fine.
Here's what it is. I feel like there's this like and this happens with alcohol. And I think it's just because things like marijuana aren't, you think about it now, you hang out with your friends, you go to a ball game and you have a beer. No one like goes to a ball game and passes around a joint. That's not a thing, right? And so I feel like the real thing in life is like, as long as you get your shit done that you need to get done, whether that be work, whether that be being a parent, whether that be, paying your bills, as long as you're doing everything you're doing to survive as a human being the way you need to, who gives a fuck what you do to relax and have a good. Now, I'm not saying go shoot heroin. That's not great. But if you need to take a couple puffs of marijuana to relax, take a couple puffs of marijuana to relax.
Right. If you can
if you are smoking marijuana, if you are smoking marijuana from the minute you wake up to get through your day, we're gonna have a different discussion, right?
Yeah,
it's the same though. Like, my biggest issue too with it, I guess, is like, again, I know certain people who like will sit here and look at me and go, I got home from work today and I didn't do anything. I had to clean the house and I had to get groceries and I'm trying to apply for jobs. And I was like, okay, so what'd you do when you get home? I smoked a joint and then I had some cookies. And I was like, okay, so let's weigh the pros and cons. You're an adult.
Yeah.
You had stuff you had to do.
Right.
You probably, in the same sense, that'd be like me saying, I let my kid run around in a poopy diaper for 4 hours today, but had 15 beers. That was a good time.
Yeah,
it was a blast.
Yeah, you're right, man. I think the one thing I will say, like, I would caution for any of these drugs if they go mainstream is like, so with a DUI, if you get pulled over or whatever, they could test you to see what your alcohol blood content is, or blood alcohol content. But if you're high, right? Like, how do we test? Obviously, if your eyes are bloodshot,
measurable. There's no measurable.
We got to figure out a way to get to that.
And the biggest problem is that you test alcohol in blood. It's in there. It's a very quantitative thing. It's very up to the minute. You can't do that. THC can stay in your stomach for up to 30 days, 90 days, 90 days in your hair.
Well, so it's concentration, half-life, and then
correct.
But so that they could theoretically put a number out there,
right? They could, but the problem is when you're talking half-lives with the way THC binds to you, it's in your stomach, so it's all metabolism based, whereas alcohol runs through your blood.
But there's got to be a scientific number where if you have X amount of THC in your system, right, then you're going to be feeling the effects.
But based on usage, so the way it works is, we're not going to go into this day and age. Why Seth knows about this, but the way it works is it's not even that. It's so THC lines your stomach lining. If you then have more THC while THC is still in your stomach lining, it lines that first layer of THC. So now you've got 2 layers of THC to get through.
Is that only if you smoke?
I believe it's any consumption. It's just the time it gets to get to your stomach, essentially. Think about it. Have an edible takes a little bit longer to get high, type deal, right? That's also why eating sobers you up, because it puts, so now you have here's your stomach, THC layer, food layer. But over time, if you're building THC layers, so let's say you smoke every single day. You're someone who comes home from work every day. You hit that joint every single day. You've built up these multiple layers of THC in your stomach. So even if you're breaking off this one here or this one in the back, I couldn't tell you which one goes first, but say you're breaking off this back one, you still have all these layers that still need to break off. Whereas someone who smokes it once and then doesn't smoke again, they've got that one layer. It's broken off, it's gone. So that's the big problem, is the current testing for it is your hair, which stays in for 90 days, or your blood, or no, excuse me, your piss, which comes from your stomach, which is 30 days, up to 30, 2 weeks to 30 days. People have tried everything in the world from niacin to the only thing in the world you never want to do, don't go buy a cleaner kit. The testing centers know what cleaner kits look like. They can test for cleaner kits. So don't go buy a cleaner kit.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
It is.
So so I think what cops do now, right, is that if you get pulled over and you seem high, they like search the car or something, right, and try to find evidence that you were driving.
I was gonna say,
I'm pretty sure that's how it works at this point.
I think it's one of those things where they need
They perform
acting
sobriety
high
test.
is one portion, but you can't like get arrested for acting high. They have to find something
Right.
in junction with you acting.
They probably I talked to one of my buddies friends at a bachelor party who was a state trooper in New Jersey, or two of them, and pretty sure, and I could be fucking wrong, but I'm pretty sure he said they, if they pull somebody over, they seem like they're high, they pull them out, do a sobriety test, and I don't know if it's reasonable cause or something, but if they see anything that indicates that they had been smoking in the car, they see a lit joint or something, I think then they can pull them
They'll take
in.
it in.
Right.
Yeah.
Dude, when you say
Well,
like acting high too, that makes me think like I don't think I've ever been around somebody who was high and been like, I don't want to be around this person. I've thought that so many times with drunk people.
Yeah, but driving, there,
but
how it
also,
affects
so I know what
people
you're
it's
saying.
a side note.
I know
Yeah,
what you're
yeah.
saying, Rich, but I also think that you're dealing with two very different drugs. So alcohol can be a depressant, but it can be a stimulant. It reacts to everybody differently. A lot of people on pot aren't going to go around and like be lovey-dovey and grabby and blabbery. That's not what pot is, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But that can be what alcohol is. So it's a lot of different things, you know.
Both affect your driving and your reaction time.
Yeah,
which is
for
why
sure.
it's-
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And these are things that I think is where you're going to see the struggle with federal legalization, because federal government's never going to be able to be like, yep, this is legal. We can't measure it. We can't tell if you're actively high, but it's legal now. Like that's not.
They'll have to leave it up to the states. I lost two friends in like 6 months to drunk drivers. And yeah, both of them were not the drunk ones. Like it was the other people. Just went out, got hammered, and then both of them I think died in like head-on collisions. It was sad, man. Like but it's like, and I hate when people are like, "Oh, I'm better driving when I'm drunk." Like I fucking hate hearing
I feel
that.
like people say that in high school. I don't know anybody that says that.
Dude,
Yeah, I don't know
remember-
as adults.
So I last
Usually,
person I was dating,
usually when you're an adult, it's I live like 5 minutes away. I'll be fine. I've driven this route 100 times. I'll be fine.
Yeah.
No,
I'm
I've
hearing
heard
makes
I've heard like a
better.
50-year-old guy say that multiple times, and like one time when I like said, I was like, yeah, I don't really think that's funny. Like the person I was dating like got on my ass. They're like, you're so uptight. I'm like, yeah, I lost 2 friends in 6 months, so it's not like maybe that's
So
why I'm a little
you have to,
sensitive this,
so you
but-
have to be a little careful because
Especially, dude, in a day when Uber exists too. it's just
exactly
like
no, in a day where Uber and Lyft are everywhere, absolutely.
yeah.
But there are certain times when like you see drunk driving happen and you can't automatically think that this person is a murderous human being. Like
yeah,
people
I
make
wouldn't say
mistakes,
they're-
and yes, it's dangerous, and yes,
I get it.
trust me, people who are drunk drivers, they will quickly learn. They will either quickly learn of all of the bad things that can happen from them being a drunk driver, or they're an idiot and it's going to happen again regardless of if they went through all that or not.
Yeah.
So it's a mistake, right? We're humans. Humans make mistakes sometimes. So I don't think you can look at, I think when people are out boastfully going, yeah, I drive drunk all the time. Yeah, that's fucked up to say.
Right.
But I don't think you can look at every human being who gets pulled over for drunk driving as being a terrible human being. It's
No,
someone
I
who made a
don't.
drastic mistake.
Look, all of us on here probably has gotten behind a wheel when we probably shouldn't have. Now, I don't remember getting behind a wheel when I was like blackout, but maybe I had like one beer extra, right, that I shouldn't have. But like that was, and I'm not trying to make it be like, well, I only did that like once or twice, so it's not a bad thing. Here's the thing, right? I'm not saying if you do that, you're a murderous human being or a bad human being. I do think though that you are an irresponsible person for doing that in our generation, at least.
I feel like maybe you were irresponsible that night. You weren't
In that
irresponsible.
moment you were. But again, you also have to remember
you could have made better decisions.
in that
For
moment
sure,
you
and I
can
should have
also
because
sit
there was
here
Uber.
and go, you're 10, 12 beers deep. You're already pretty irresponsible. Like that's a thing. Again, not saying it's the right thing, but there's a very weird stigma around drunk drive. It's bad. It's bad in this day and age. It should never happen. Absolutely. But it does.
Yeah. I
And
guess what I'm just getting at is just don't do it.
I think it's the boastful part. I think what you're talking, like it's the boastful. People are like, yeah, I'm all right, man. I drive better after I've been drinking. Or like, yeah, bro, I do this all the time. It's cool. We're fine. Like those are the times where we're like, all right, shut the fuck up. If it's someone who made a mistake one time and they were like, I'm good to drive, and they weren't good to drive, and they forgot to turn their headlights on, or they hit that yellow line and it's 2:00 in the morning and that's all the cop is out there to do. Like, those happen too,
for
you
sure,
know?
for sure. But here's the but, right? It's like some lady went out that night and she could have had fun. she could have had fun without having to have way too many beers. And because she decided to have way too many beers, she got in a car and she killed my friend. And I'm not even making it about me. The saddest thing that I ever saw in my life was back when I was actually on Facebook. Not the saddest thing I ever saw in my life. One of the saddest things I ever saw in my life was getting on Facebook and seeing his dad post on his wall, like, hey man, like, because this kid loved music. And he was like, yeah, I was listening to this today and all that. I really wish you were here. And like, I have to see a parent like do that because some lady had to go out and like do that shit, dude. It's just like, to me, it's just such a, it's a tragic loss of life, and it's also something that's completely preventable.
I mean, it's sad and it's
Completely
preventable, but you got to remember this
Completely
lady,
preventable.
right? But you got to remember this lady also lives with that now. She lives with the fact that she killed someone,
But she lives.
and that's true. But also, like, that's a mistake. Mistakes happen, man.
No, I
It's
get
not
it. I
like
get it.
it's not that she purposely went out and slammed 15 beers and got in a car and then drove into the
Yeah,
other
yeah,
lane and
yeah.
killed
No,
it,
I
you
get it.
know?
I get it.
So
Or
it's, yes, I can understand the upsetness and how it feels to you, but I don't think that we as a society should jump to criminalize and demean and make this. I mean, this person is already living one hell of a life now, knowing they've killed somebody. Their life has been uprruined, and
But
I'm not saying
you
that's
gotta
not how it should
criminalize it
be.
though, right? There's got to
yeah,
be some
Well,
sort of retribution.
I'm not saying don't persecute and all that, but I'm saying, like, I don't think we need to put burning crosses on this lady's front yard and say she's a horrible human. She made a mistake. She made a
right,
mistake.
right. Made a mistake, paid the price.
Has to pay the price. Exactly.
But I mean, you could think of scenarios, right, where one, you're 5 beers deep, 10 beers deep on a night at a bar, right? You didn't intend on driving. You went there with a friend. They catch an Uber home because you got an argument or something like that, and you're already not in a good mind. By the time you figure out, you got to figure out how to get home. You got your friend's keys. You take their car home. I could see scenarios like that unfolding at every bar on a Friday night, at across the country, right? And that's where, okay, you made a terrible decision while you were inebriated. You paid the price for it, right? I'm not condoning it. Shit happens and
No,
people make
it's
mistakes.
exactly. And I think it's again, you can never take away from the victims. You can never take away. It's terrible. It's horrible. I could not even begin to imagine. But you also just can't. I'm trying to figure out the best word for it. Like this, yes, this person did a bad thing. Yes, they should be penalized for doing bad things. They did a bad thing. They're not a bad person. I think that's what it comes down to. There's a difference
Well,
between
yeah,
doing a bad thing and being
Right,
a bad person.
right.
we don't
Again,
really know her, but I would say
Yeah,
again,
not
if
this.
you
her
went out,
specifically.
if you went out and you drank 15 beers and you got in a car and laughed and turned into the left-hand lane, because why the fuck not? I'm going to try and hit somebody. Yeah, you're a terrible human being. If you drank any number of beers and had your kid in the back seat, like three, like, dude, let me tell you, my wife and I, we go to breweries a lot different these days with our kid. We go to breweries with these kids and we have one beer because I have my kid now. Like, I would never jeopardize my kid. And you read all these stories about people who get pulled over for drunk driving with a kid in the back seat, and you're
That's
like,
fucking crazy.
Jesus Christ. Like, what? One, why do you feel the need to get that loaded? And two, why do you feel the need to get that loaded around your kid?
Yeah, yeah.
So, like,
I think one thing I learned younger, to be honest, is like I learned my limit pretty young. Like probably in my earlier 20s. Like by the time I was like 25, 26, like dude, I don't even think by the time I was 26, I can't really recall getting blackout. The last time I don't really recall getting blackout. I think the last time I was like what you would call brownout was when you came to Hofstra and there was like homecoming. And that was the night that you and I somehow miraculously found each other. Remember, like, I don't even know how the hell it happened, but like we split up at some point that night, and then all of a sudden we like ended up in the same place. That was the last time, and I was what, 21, 22. But I learned my limit like early on. So here's kind of where I'm going with this. I think I'm not saying that you're automatically a bad person if you drink too much, but I do think it is at a certain point, at a certain age, you have to get to a point where you know your limit and you hold yourself to a standard where you don't go beyond that limit, especially when you know that there's a chance you might have to get into a car or something like that. There's the irresponsibility of going too far. There's the irresponsibility and selfishness or just immaturity of saying, okay, I got into an argument with my friend, so now we're going to split up. So this is actually where, and I'm going to be put in a situation where I can maybe have to get behind the wheel. Here's where I'm going to loop us back to TV real quick. Okay.
We were talking about TV tonight.
We were.
I still got to
Jack-
talk about my second book.
I was
That's
waiting on
it.
that.
Wait, I thought you did. I thought the hunting guy was the
That
second.
was the
book.
first book.
Oh, okay. I'll wrap this up then quick. So like Jax Teller has a quote in
Oh Jesus!
Famous
Sons of
non-fictional
Anarchy.
version.
Yeah, Sons of Anarchy.
Totally realistic.
You,
Yeah,
you
continue.
reach an age. We talk about being a man, right? We're like, oh, that's a manly man. Okay, so here's where that comes together with TV. So you reach an age where you realize that being a man isn't about respect or strength. It's about being aware of all the things you touch. Children face inward. Children face inward, wallow in their own selfish needs. Men face out, take action on the needs of others. I'm in that place, boys. So I think the part where he says it's about being aware of all the things you touch, like you need to, when you're like in your teens and maybe your early 20s, like it's okay sometimes, provided the environment's not going to, again, it's going to affect other people. I'm saying that now as a man. But you get to a point where you do have to think about, okay, if I do X, what's going to happen when I do X? Who's it going to affect?
No, that's just
about being
I mean,
a man.
that's maturity. That's forget man. What that's maturity, right? Like,
But you have to employ that, right? When it comes to also like, hey,
no,
I'm
you
going out
do.
tonight. I'm going to have
Absolutely.
fun, but I'm not going to take it too far.
So counterpoint to the not take it too far, blah blah blah, whatever. And then we're gonna get to Tyler's second book because I can see him. He's chomping at the bit for it.
No, I'm actually
That'd be a good book.
It better be the best book I've ever heard. No, I take it like last weekend, right? So last weekend had a little neighborhood get together. A few of the neighbors, we all stood in someone's driveway because that's what we do here in Central Ohio, and we had some beers. And it was only going to be a couple beers, chat, everybody hang out. We had a new neighbor who was the second time we had hung out with them, but we had got to meet their daughters. We were trying to hook up two of the kids' daughters because they're around the same age, new friends. And instead of a couple beers, it was like 3 or 4. And then all of a sudden, we're talking about putting the kids to bed and going over to the neighbors play euchre. And so it was a decent night. I had 6, 7 beers, really. And the next morning, I woke up and was feeling it, right? Feeling in a way I don't normally feel it anymore. So, the way you talk about it, Rich, you're like, you can't be doing that anymore. But like, my kid was fed. My kid was happy. My kid was in bed. Like, I took care of myself. We didn't drive anywhere. We didn't do anything. Yes, I had a couple beers more than I normally had, but like, as long as I think you're taking care of, and this chews back to the recreational drugs life.
Yeah,
right.
That's my point, though.
And so I guess that's where I didn't see you see it that way. You sounded almost like you were like villainizing.
Well, no. Look, if you take it a little too far, like look, I'm not saying because you get drunk you're a bad person. I'm saying this is you get to a point so let me clarify, because maybe you're right. Maybe I didn't say this as eloquently as I should have. You get to a point in your life where if you want to get to that level, right? It's not a bad thing so long as you're making sure all the boxes are checked off. So kid was taken care of, everything was taken care of. You have your wife to take care of you. You're not getting behind the wheel of a car. You're not going to be in a situation, right, where you are going to affect others in a negative way, whether that's your wife, whether that's your kid, whether that's other people, innocent people, right? In the case of my friend. Now, same thing with marijuana. I don't give a fuck if you get high as shit on a Sunday or a Saturday and you just stay home and you're just like, chilling on a couch or watching TV. Now, again, so long as you check off all the other boxes, and fuck it. If if you're not checking off boxes, like, hey, I didn't
I think you have to be accountable or whatever.
As long as you're not affecting other people.
Right.
As long as
you're not jeopardizing other people's safety.
You have, so long as you check off the boxes and you're going to affect other people, right? To where you're accountable for other people. If those boxes are checked off, then do whatever you got to do. But if you're going to be in a situation where you've not checked off all those boxes and you could affect other people, that's when you really got to like look in the mirror and say, did I do a shitty thing and why?
Right. Again though, and no, you're spot on. The check the box is the important thing. I think that we though need to be, and again, there are certain things you can't be relaxed on, right? Like you can't neglect children. You can't go out and go wild every single night. You can't be shooting up heroin. You can't be doing bad things like that. But like every once in a while, you make a mistake. And as long as you acknowledge, account for, and at the most, you pay the penance, right? You always have to pay the penance. That's the big part. And then the hope is paying the penance will teach you to not do it again type deal, right? And it's tough to do because the extreme of the situation is get behind the wheel of the car, accidentally drive on the other side of the road, kill somebody, right? And so now you sit here and go, well, as long as they learned their lesson, like that's certainly not what the victim's family is feeling like. But I think that's the idea behind it, is that we have to remember that we're all humans, man. Humans make mistakes. Nobody,
Yeah.
nobody in this world is perfect. You hope
And
the
murderers,
mistakes are little, but
yeah.
everyone makes mistakes
And
outside of
like,
serial killers.
well, I was gonna say, like, I'm not saying like murderers aren't beyond redemption, unless if you're a serial killer, then obviously that's like a whole other level, right? But like, maybe somebody was young, they were in a gang or whatever. I don't know. For some whatever reason they kill somebody. It doesn't mean for the rest of their life. Like, or a certain football player that was, allegedly killed somebody, and now he's a
There's
very
laws. You break the
Christian-like
laws,
figure.
you pay the penalty, right?
Because yeah, like,
Exactly.
I'm not saying people aren't beyond redemption. I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm obviously doing a bad job conveying this. It's just like,
No, I don't think
just
you
No,
are.
no, I
use your
understand
head.
you.
Use your head,
Right.
right? Because
No, I don't think you are. I want to express the other side of it, right? Like and Tyler just said it. You break the law, you pay the price, right?
yeah,
But once you've paid the price,
yeah, then it's
there
yeah, I
has to
get you.
be this motion, and we can decide if we can cut this or not. The big example is Mike Vick, right?
Dude, I knew you were gonna say that. I knew you
Terrible,
were gonna say
terrible
that.
thing that he did.
Yeah,
Horrible
yeah,
thing that he did, right?
yeah.
Dogfighting is the epitome of terrible. We're all animal lovers here. Terrible, terrible thing. But he was a professional athlete. Okay. What other professional athlete can you think did such terrible crimes, went and did their whole sentence, continues to this day be in therapy for it,
Hmm.
and
He
then
doesn't he
he
do a lot of good
still,
for
yes,
animal cruelty stuff now?
yes,
Yeah,
and he still is just vilified by some people. And
right.
so my thought on it is terrible thing done. He paid his price for it. He's working to better himself because of it. You got to give people a second chance.
Yeah, agreed. I get what you're saying. People can evolve. I mean, that's
Right.
as an animal lover, I really struggle with that example, but I do see your point of
I
like,
mean, I don't think he tried at one point to get a dog. I don't think we should ever give the man a dog.
that's true,
But
at least not a pit bull.
in a
Yeah,
day and age when there are people who play professional sports who have murdered people and didn't get in trouble for it, yes, I think that it's a bright spot to see someone who did a crime and actually paid the price and is putting in the work to be a better human being. So
yeah, I get it. I think too. Like, you could probably look at like, if there's people that are like the holier than thou, and they could be very judgmental. And I could say that because obviously I grew up in like a Catholic family and all that stuff. But it's like, what, they're like apostles that had obviously passed, right?
dude,
And
you
then
should
now
read
they're apostles or saints.
I don't know how you feel on the topic of serial killers, but you should read the Mindhunter book. So the Netflix show Mindhunter, it's based on a book, and the book is literally the two guys who created basically psychoanalysis of serial killers.
Mm,
And they talk about their interviews with certain serial killers. It's so interesting. And it talks about how serial killers, like, there are two different kinds. And one kind of serial killer, like, when they're killing people, they're one person, and when they're not, they're completely different. But they know that they have that serial killer in them, and they're like, don't ever let me out. Don't don't ever put me in front of a parole board. I will do this again. And then
Right.
the other type is like, they're the type who's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be a good boy. I'll prove that I'm good. Put me in front of a parole board, and then they get let out and they kill again.
Right.
yeah.
Just
It's
waiting.
wild. It's wild. It's such an interesting book, though. If you have any interest in serial killers, I would strongly recommend that book. But anyway, Tyler, your second book.
Yeah. Wait, do you mind if I go get a meatball sub real quick, like literally in my kitchen?
Oh, good. We're gonna watch Rich
Uh,
stuff meat in
I'll
his
try.
mouth
I'll
again.
try and
Oh,
I'll try and be good about it. It's been
great.
sitting there for at least a half hour.
Oh my God. All right. I'm gonna take this as a pee break then. Are we
I
good?
will. Well, no, I'll starve. Go ahead. What's your
Okay.
second book?
Well, so the second book, Will Smith's book. I don't know if you've heard or read that one.
No,
But it came
no.
out right before he slapped.
I was gonna
Chris Rock.
ask if it was how to effectively slap a human being.
No, it came out right before that, and it talks about how he got his breaks and uh how he initially started in rapping and how hard he had worked there, and then once he finally got into how it's crazy to hear how he got the Fresh Prince role, which was his first acting gig. He had been rapping and got invited to this party, and I forget the guy's name. Basically, some dude was like, "Okay, you're doing an audition right now in the middle of this fucking party." He was like, "Yo, I can't do that. What are you talking about?" And he did the audition in the middle of the party, got the role for Fresh Prince, and that's like what ignited his career.
Oh, that's cool.
Fucking
Man.
insane.
That's a great show. That's a great show. Well, actually, look. Can we look back to? Do you want to look back to TV real quick?
Not really.
Are we done with that? Like, we're literally.
No, I was still talking, and you already cut me off.
You just talked about the book.
Wait,
I'm
my
still
question
going.
is,
Go on.
wait, Tyler, my question,
There's more to the
do we,
book.
do
Go
we,
ahead.
do we
That's my bad.
like, do we like Will Smith? Are we fans of Will Smith? Do we not like Will Smith?
Um, I think if you read his book, you learn a lot about his past, right? And
Okay.
where he's definitely got some,
I'm just opening tabs. As you mentioned things to read, I'm opening tabs. So
where he's
continue.
definitely got some stuff going on, like anxiety or something going on there, where he talked about dating this one girl for a while and how their relationships, and he was like head over heels in love with her, and she broke his heart, and like it like destroyed him, and like you could just hear it in the book, and in case he read the book too, so you could hear him as he's talking about the story. It's just, I think he had some things that really like kind of messed him up. So like shit like especially in his relationship with Jada, right?
Oh yeah, we all
Yeah,
know
didn't
about
they say
that.
that's why he took that so personally? Because like his past and like he felt like he had to project and defend her or something like that.
Yeah. So
I mean, even though she can go around and no, I'm not gonna say it. You know what? I'm not gonna say it. It's fine. I'm not gonna say it.
Fuck her kid's friend.
Yeah, I'm
That's
not gonna.
weird. I think I
That's
like him,
weird.
but
It's a little more than weird.
I think I like him as a person who like worked his ass off to get where he's at, and he got lucky once or twice, but he worked his ass off, and he was passionate about what he was doing, and he tried things that a lot of people didn't do at the time. So I think that's very respectable, and I think that's why I like him.
I mean, he also has done it for 30 years, so he's doing something right, right?
And I love the Fresh Prince. Well, so
Fresh Prince is great.
the reason why he became once he became the Fresh Prince, at one point he's like, I want to be the biggest fucking movie star on the planet. And so he ended up seeing like Sylvester Stallone, Bruce Willis, and Arnold Schwarzenegger somewhere, and he is like, what the fuck do I need to do? And like, you need to go international. And
Yep,
like
that's what
what
The
blew him
Rock
up.
does. That's what The Rock does.
He did tours for all his movies. I
Yep.
think it might have started with Hancock or something around there, but
Yep.
he did tours with all his movies international, and that's what blew up his box sales, because everybody does big in the US, right?
That's
but
what The Rock
when you
does.
start doing stuff and you put the time in and you go
Yep.
overseas and you do shows overseas, and that's what made him so big.
Yeah.
And like the Ali movie, he's talking about the Ali movie. Oh my God, it was so good.
You know, you got to give him props, because I feel like, especially late 80s, early 90s, like he could have very quickly fallen into a typecast role. But then you see Pursuit of Happiness, you see Ali, you see he's more well-rounded, and I you give him props to break out of that typecasting.
He has done a variety of roles.
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
really cool.
And again, I feel like late 80s, early 90s, whole 90s was that time frame where that's what actors were. You got very typecast in the 90s. Jim Carrey, right? A lot of the comedian guys, typecast actors. And for him to break out and do it is very impressive. Yeah, Jack Black, another one.
Yeah.
I think Adam Sandler, Will Ferrell, all those guys. Anybody who popped out of SNL was going to immediately be a comedy star, and that was it.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking if like, has Will Ferrell done a serious role?
He's done a couple, and they were all terrible.
Okay.
Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
I haven't heard
did. It's not Punch Drunk Love. That was Adam Sandler. It's the one where he has to sell all his stuff and leave, and I can't remember the name of it.
Elf?
No. Yes, Elf. He was serious in Elf. I'm gonna find this.
Everything Must Go.
Yes, like... Everything Must Go. That's the one.
Okay. I'll look into that, because I'm just like curious what that would be like, because I've not.
Think of Seth Rogen in 50-50 with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Like that's the Funny People with all those guys who it was supposed to be a serious role. These are movies that these guys struggled, right? Look at any TV show in the 90s, Friends. Can you think of anybody in the show Friends that ever left their Friends cast like what they were in Friends, outside of Jennifer Aniston?
That's who I was going to say, but I can't.
Outside of Jennifer Aniston, can you think of anybody?
Didn't she always play like the pretty girl that all the guys wanted?
I mean, she was hot.
She's just hot. I mean, I think that's going to be
she's hot. That's just going to be what it is. But she did rom-coms. She's done a couple serious ones. She's done comedies in general. Like her genres of her as herself, but that's who she is. What do you want?
So I guess now that we've been talking about Friends, we can go back to TV right now.
I was gonna just say,
like, see it, guys. I did it.
Yeah, you did it. Well, I figured what you said before was a good segue because Fresh Prince, but I think look, the thing is with Will Smith, to your point before, like you can't judge somebody just based on one second. You can't thank you though. You can't judge somebody based on like one act is the action what you're saying. So like the slap, like I'm not gonna hate Will Smith or really look down on him for it. I mean, I don't think it was right. But like the guy, if you grew up in the 90s, like Will Smith was a huge part of like your life, dude, right? Like Men in Black,
That was
Millennium,
the
like
only
all
TV
those
show I had on DVD was Fresh Prince. I used to watch that go to sleep every night.
yeah, getting
Prince is a
jiggy
good
with it,
show.
dude. Like all of those like songs
He
and all
didn't
that. Yeah.
swear. He didn't swear in his raps.
You
Everybody
didn't
loved him
swear?
because he didn't
But
swear.
dude, if you put getting jiggy with it on or like Miami, I'll still like rap every single word. I
A lot of the
love
rap community didn't like him because of his style and rap music because he was too like upbeat and
Yeah.
friendly or whatever and happy. He wasn't like actually rapping.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
I
whatever
get
rapping
you.
was considered, but
Yeah. Oh yeah, so TV. So top should we just name, like top shows?
So wait, instead of doing top shows, because that's so tough, right? There's different. Give me a show that you would watch over and over again. Like you would watch it from start to finish, and then instead of picking a new show, you would go back and just start to finish again.
Oh, dude. This one's actually kind of easy. I would say either Band of Brothers or The Pacific.
Neither of those are shows, they're miniseries.
Okay, this one's hard now. Now this one's hard.
You just picked long movies.
It's not a show, like really not a show.
Does it have to be
No,
a
it's a
show like
miniseries.
like it's something that I put on just to watch, or is it something like I put on because I care about it and it's like
I'm gonna leave that to your discretion.
okay. Then mine's How I
Really?
Met Your Mother. I put on How I Met Your Mother.
How I Met Your Mother is a good one.
I
It's
could
up
pretty
there.
much watch any episode at any time, or Fresh Prince. Though honestly, those
There you
those
go.
two.
Rich, do you want me to go where you're still thinking?
I was like thinking like either Dragon Ball Z or is that not a show because it's an anime?
Yeah, no, you're fucking up again.
No, you're just terrible.
All right, fine. Then I would say probably
It's-
Seinfeld. Seinfeld.
You know, I think Seinfeld's a little. It's a good show. It's definitely a cult classic. I think it's a little overrated. I'll say it.
I never watched it.
It's not bad. You should watch it. You should watch it. You're going to get a lot
You've
more
never
cultural
watched it.
references. But it's
I'm
it's
never
alright.
gonna watch it to be
I
honest.
think
It's-
mine would probably have to be The Office
Classic.
That's a funny one. I didn't never
Or-
finish that, but that was really funny when I saw it.
or Modern Family. Modern Family is fucking hilarious.
Never watched
And
that either.
so, dude, you gotta watch it. It's so relatable to like any human being. I feel like
Cam is my favorite character by far.
greatest human being ever. The
So
episode where
funny.
he's taking off he's just got his t-shirt on. He's going, Stella.
That's so many good moments. Remember when the guy's like trying to like climb over the fence and he like pins him on the ground? Dude, there's so many. Yeah, that is a good show.
Dude, the little Asian girl in that show is hilarious. Her little one-liners at her parents from time to time, absolutely fantastic.
Even Manny, dude, was dude, who was the girl? Oh man, the one girl that everybody liked for like at least all the guys our age liked for the longest time. She was like the older daughter.
Oh, Sarah Hyland,
But then the younger daughter,
Ariel Winter.
dude, yeah. She grew up and she became like she was not like the nerdy girl.
She
anymore.
grew up. She grew up.
She
We'll leave it at that.
up,
She
dude,
grew up.
We'll leave it at that. Yeah.
No, that
But
was
I
a
was
great
like
show.
that was always I remember always going on like Twitter or Instagram and I would always like see posts about that because everybody was freaking out over how she like was like this like nerdy girl in the show and then all of a sudden she's like in a club in like a dress.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. It's another issue though. That's another one if you go back to it though, that look at that show and outside of people who are already established, so the adults, right? None of the kids are ever going to get another role in TV because you're on that show for 12 years. You're basically you grew up on that show, right? So everybody knows you as that. You're never going to get something else.
Or it'd
Yeah.
be a very similar type role.
Exactly, or you're going to get the same thing. But
Dude,
like,
Phil from Modern Family was in Black Hawk Down.
yeah, dude, Ty Burrell is a
What?
fantastic. Ty Burrell is a
Yeah, dude.
fantastic actor. Fantastic.
Bro, he was yeah, dude. That first of all, the cast of Black Hawk Down
It was insane.
was phenomenal.
Bro,
Yeah,
You don't
Bro.
notice it. You didn't
it's
notice
so
it when
insane.
you didn't notice it when it like first came out. But like that's one of those movies when you go back and watch and you're like, holy shit, this person's in it. Holy shit, this person's in it.
I just go to Black Hawk Down insane. I meant to do cast.
yeah, dude. Phil Dunphy was I think he was like Delta Force.
Holy
He was
shit.
like
You
giving
just
somebody an
imagine,
IV or
you just
something.
imagine like actual Phil Dunphy, like from Modern Family, like that.
Not the guy
That's
you
his
want to have on your
backstory.
back.
Yo,
That's
this
his
cat,
backstory. That's why he's so goofy. He's like, dude, I've seen some shit, man. I gotta be goofy now.
this cast really is incredible. Josh
Cast is-
Hartnett, Eric Bana, Ewan McGregor, Tom Hardy, Orlando Bloom. Like that alone right there is just a lot of fucking famous
Dude,
names.
Channing
Wait,
Tatum was in it.
Jamie Lannister was it?
Jamie
Yeah.
Lannister was in it. He was one of the special ops guys that got he died. Was he Gordy?
Uh,
Or he was like, where was like Gordy's gone, man.
Gordon,
He'll be
yeah.
outside. Yeah, dude. That he was. I think he was Gordon.
Oh, Kim
Yeah.
Coates from Sons of Anarchy, the dude who played
He was in it. Yeah,
yeah.
Dude,
he
he's
gets
another
blown
dude who's in
half.
a lot. He's another dude who's in a lot of things, and you just see him and you're like, that's fucking Tiggy. Like that. You
Yeah,
see
yeah,
him in
yeah,
other
yeah.
things, you're like, that's Tiggy.
The
Yeah,
guy from
Tig.
Saving Private Ryan, who's like he's like the badass guy in all the war films. He's in it. Yeah, that whole cast, dude. The kid from Sandlot, the kid from the Sandlot, the main character from the Sandlot. He grew up and he was in that.
Oh, Tom
I mean-
Sizemore was in both of them. I don't know. He
Tom
was like
Sizemore's in like everything.
holy
that the-
dude,
who's that?
Saving Private Ryan was another crazy one too.
Yep. Saving
Fucking
Private Ryan had a
Tom
ton
Sizemore,
of
that's what I'm
people
talking
in it.
about.
Tom
Yeah.
Hanks, Matt Damon, Vin Diesel. Like,
Vin,
dude,
I always
what?
forget that Vin
Oh,
Diesel was
yeah.
in Saving
He
Private
gets
Ryan.
shot trying to save that girl.
Holy shit.
Yeah, dude, that opening scene was like, dude, I remember. So I was like 11 years old. I was like maybe like 10 or 11, and I wanted to watch Saving Private Ryan, and my grandma made my grandfather watch it with me, and he's literally crying the entire time. He's crying, except for maybe 5 minutes. She like literally made him watch this movie with me. And I like now that I'm older, I'm like, okay, now I know why I was crying, right? But like, yeah,
Kind of wish I would have watched it with mine. That'd have been an experience.
yeah. Oh yeah, because he was actually over there. My grandfather was in like Korea.
Mm.
That
No,
was
so yeah,
great.
it came out in '98. So yeah,
Yeah, my dad said they went and saw it in theaters, the two of them, and
I think my
he
dad
said
watched
the
it with him
entire
too.
theater was crying. I remember watching what was the movie Lone Survivor, and there was like I'm assuming it was like an ex-veteran. This kid was like this guy was like crying hard, man, in the movie. It's
Right.
always sad. It's always sad to see that. But
And now
yeah,
much can help people get over that shit.
now much can help people get over that stuff. All right, so shows we can watch over again. What are your like top 3 shows slash miniseries? You can include those.
Thank you for putting miniseries in there so you can now put yours.
The Pacific Band of Brothers and
You got 2 of my top. No, I would say Pacific would be. I actually prefer the Pacific over Band of Brothers, which is like a very unpopular opinion. I don't
Yo,
know
I'm
if
gonna cut
this-
you off for just a half second. You guys were
Yeah,
just
go
talking about Starcast. Band of Brothers had a fucking fantastic cast in it too.
Who was? I mean, there was who?
I mean, a ton of people were in Band of Brothers, if I'm not mistaken.
Damian Lewis, the guy who plays
He's in Homeland.
yes, the main guy in Home.
The redheaded guy, yeah, Dick Winter. So he, yeah, but
Ron
I'm
Ron,
also
Livingston-
Livingston,
enough to have like
Ron
an emotion.
Livingston's in it. Scott
Tom
Grimes
Hanks was
was
in
in
it?
a ton of things. Donnie Wahlberg was in it.
David
David Schwimmer.
McDonough, he plays in
David
Bad Guy
Schwimmer was in it.
Yeah, but would you
they-
say these guys are like they have like illustrious acting?
I wouldn't say
careers?
it's bigger than Black
I
Hawk
mean,
Down or Saving
I think
Private
it's
Ryan.
no. I think this. So to me, this is that type of cast when you watch Band of Brothers, you see a bunch of people who you've seen in other things, if that
Mm.
makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
yeah.
I've already found 3 guys that I've seen in the show Justified. Like I'm like, that guy was in Justified. That guy was in Justified. That guy was in
Like,
Justified.
HBO does that a lot, though. It's like you're like,
Mm.
this guy was in Rome and he played Caesar. He also played the King Beyond the Wall in Game of Thrones. And like, they use a lot of the same actors in HBO shows.
I mean, Michael Fassbender was in Band of Brothers. He's a pretty big actor.
oh, that's right. He was also in 300.
Neil
Oh,
McDonough, he's been in.
Was he the dude with
tons of
long hair?
stuff.
He was Dionysus, I believe.
Is that the dude with long hair?
Uh,
Don't they all have long hair?
They all have
Oh, I
like,
don't.
long
Okay,
hair.
you're right. You're right. You're right. Hold on.
He was like the guy who cuts off the one guy's hand with the whip.
Or we'll fight in the shade? That guy.
That's it. No, the guy who was like, what are you wait, maybe he did say the one fight in the shade. Yeah, that was him. That was him.
That's right. David Schwimmer plays the asshole leader guy in Band of Brothers, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's like a
Hi ho, Silver. Yeah.
Okay, so top
Yeah.
3 shows. So we should do like a lightning round, right, or something real quick for ourselves.
Yeah.
Let's do
yeah.
it. Yeah, let's
Okay,
do it.
top, top 3 shows. Rich, you're first.
Also, okay, fuck. All right, go. Oh, top 3 shows.
Yeah, you're first.
Okay, the Pacific,
Yep.
Dragon Ball Z, and then even though I hated how it ended, Game of Thrones.
Okay. Mine, Fresh Prince, How I Met Your Mother, and Friends. So I just added one to the
Okay.
last one.
Seth.
Modern Family,
Okay.
Breaking Bad,
It's a lightning round, Seth. Come on.
Slowest lightning round in the world.
I'm sorry. You guys put me on the spot. You know, I gotta put Mad Men in there.
Ooh, that was a good show. That was a very good show.
Favorite show you watched in the last 3 months?
Ooh, like brand new, or
Just in
just like in general.
Just in general, for favorite show you've watched in the last 3 months.
Yeah.
Dragon Ball Z.
Probably the most recent Mandalorian season.
Oh, actually, wait. Can I change mine?
No.
Yes. and Andor was awesome.
Ooh, I did like that, but I didn't watch the last 3 months.
Jack Ryan.
Ooh, how is that, dude?
It's a fantastic show.
That guy's
Just wait, the
fucking
last
big,
season,
man.
the last season's coming out next week, I believe. So wait until the last season's out and then watch it all. It's a fucking fantastic show. John
That's
Krasinski
big.
in a way you've never seen him. Fantastic.
Oh wait, no. What am I thinking of? Jack Reacher.
Just Reacher?
I think you're thinking of Reacher, yeah.
I think you're reading.
Maybe
It's got
I'm
the
sure
dude
of that.
from Blue Mountain State in it.
Yeah, that guy's big, dude. He's huge.
Yeah. No, Jack Ryan is John Krasinski, who's also jacked in that show.
Okay.
Also, I'm going to remove the Modern Family and put in The Wire.
Ooh.
Oh, I
The
never
Wire-
watched that. I
Dude,
started
The
it.
People
People
is
love that show.
such a good show. It's
Yeah.
so good.
I only
It's-
watched a few seasons, but it was good.
Overrated shows. Just it could be like top three, but if you don't have three, like what do you think are some overrated shows? I really gotta get this. I gotta get this meatball parm.
Do you have some? You should go first if you have some. I gotta think.
Okay. Let me fuck. So, How I Met Your Mother. Don't.
All right, can we kick him out of this? How do we do that?
I don't really like Barney at all, or like Challenge.
I gotta go.
Accepted. I don't
I
know
got-
like that.
Yeah.
What
I
is
knew,
it?
I knew you would
Okay,
hate that. I
honey.
knew you would hate that.
All right, we'll be
Dude,
back. No.
one show that I was expecting to have my fucking socks knocked off, but it didn't. Good show, but not like holy shit. And maybe because it goes back to I was watching it more recently, The Sopranos.
I honestly never watched it.
I don't know how you could call that an overrated show.
I would
I
say
think it's a
like,
fantastic. I think it's fantastic story writing
it's
every
a good
season.
it's a good show, but I don't think it's like one of the greatest shows of all time. I think what makes it
I mean, you gotta
phenomenal in a lot of
remember- you
people's
gotta
eyes is
remember-
because of what it was at that time.
I was gonna say you got to remember it was written in 1996, 97, something along those lines.
Yeah, Casablanca was written in like the 30s, so you know what I mean. Like,
It's
it's just like
Not a great movie.
it's a phenomenal movie.
Anyway,
Phenomenal movie.
I would say Walking Dead, very overrated show.
Overrated, yes, agreed.
Um,
Good choice. Good choice.
I would say Seinfeld is an overrated show. Good show. Overrated show.
Dude, Friends, I would say is overrated too.
You know, I'm rewatching Friends right now. It still hits. It's still
Think
funny.
I mean,
I laugh.
It depends what you're watching it for.
I laugh every time I watch. I think if I can watch a show and get the intended response from that show it's still a good show. So I laugh at Friends, it's still good. I bet you if I watch The Sopranos, I'd still be fucking shocked when they drove Adriana out there and put two in the back of her head, you know?
With
Yeah,
How I Met Your
shame.
Mother and Friends, I feel like you could put on any episode in any season on a random day and watch it and enjoy it. You don't need to know
Yeah.
the rest of the fucking
Correct.
I mean, I
scenarios going
I
on.
do enjoy Friends, but like there are times I'm just like, you know what? Like
I think
don't-
you also
like,
though do you still
Chandler's
get the
annoying me, and
do you just not like funny people? Like what is
no,
wrong with you?
I think it's like I don't like tryhards, and I feel like Chandler's like way too try hard, and he kind of reminds me.
Bro, that
yeah,
was
I don't know.
TV back then.
Yeah,
I
like-
know. It's a good show. I like it. Usually in the fall, I'll like put it on. I don't know why. I like have these weird associations with certain shows or certain movies or in certain times of year. But like, and it does kind of bring you back like a little bit. But I don't think it's like some people hail this as like the greatest show of all time or one of the top 3 of all time. I don't know. I just don't see it. That's just my
So
opinion.
lightning round turned into Rich shitting on 2 of my favorite.
Two just great shows.
Would you call
Just-
Dragon Ball Z one of your greatest shows of all time?
I wouldn't call it one of my least favorite. Or
I
overrated.
didn't call that one of my least favorite.
Overrated.
Ooh, all right, I got one. Top
Definitely
3,
overrated.
top 1, top however many you want to call it.
Yeah.
Guilty pleasure shows that you aren't going to openly broadcast to the humankind that you watch actively or watched
dude, wait,
actively.
I didn't do my 3 overrated. First, hold on. Bachelor, Bachelorette, Housewives, whatever.
Nice. Yes, good call. All 3 of those
Yeah,
I agree
that's a
on.
good one.
I
That is
agree
a
on
good
all
one.
of those.
Okay,
Anything
sorry,
on like
Seth.
E, you mean, right?
What?
Anything on like E or whatever that channel is.
Yeah,
that,
any of that shit overrated.
yeah,
I'll
yeah,
never
yeah.
watch it.
Yeah.
Sorry, Seth.
Wait, where was I going?
Actually, is this show I'm about to say on?
What did I just say? What did I just
Guilty
say?
pleasure.
Guilty pleasure. Like you don't openly broadcast that you watch it, but you've watched it and enjoyed it.
Show.
Yeah. Or movie. Throw movies in there too.
50 Shades of Grey. I watched that.
I mean, mine is One
did
Tree
that
Hill.
I actually read that
strategically,
book.
though, right?
I actually read that
I'm
book.
not even surprised. Yeah, One Tree Hill is mine for sure.
Is it my turn?
Yes.
Dude, I would say like Love Island or Love is Blind.
Love is Blind is I'll put Love is
That's a
Blind. in there.
great show, man.
It's entertaining. I wouldn't call it great by any stretch. It's entertaining.
I mean, it's very entertaining. It's very even Bachelor sometimes or Bachelorette could be kind of entertaining, but
No, those are boring.
do you remember Rock of Love? The VH1 ones were pretty entertaining.
Yo, back in the do you guys remember Next on MTV?
Yeah,
You'd sit on the bus and you're
such
next
a
to
good
them.
show. Yeah.
Room
Or
Raiders.
like,
Room Raiders.
So I
what was the one
remember
with the
Room
parents?
Raiders.
What was the one with the parents where they like chose
I know what you're talking about.
parental
Guidance.
no intervention, parental intervention? No,
Parental
what was it,
control.
dude?
Parental
Yes,
control.
parental control.
What was that
Yeah,
show?
great show.
You literally,
dude.
the parents would choose. You had 3 people who were trying to be your suitor, and they sat with your parents, and then your parents got to choose your date. Yeah, dude.
Or they
nothing
try to like
beats,
set you up.
nothing beats Room Raiders, where dudes would go into chicks' rooms and immediately go into their underwear drawer.
Yeah, that's true. Fucking weird show. What are some underrated shows?
I'm running out of shows.
Actually, wait, can we hold that thought? I gotta get food, bro. I gotta
Get food. I'm gonna pee.
All right.
So Seth,
that's how you get COVID.
one thing it's not part of lightning round. One thing I wanted to touch on from last week that I wanted to apologize for because I think I rejected your solution to part of the problem. So the problem was the misinformation in general, how people get their information. And
Yes.
you suggested that we teach kids in school on how to do it and how to get information, good sources of information. I said that's never gonna fucking happen. I'm pretty sure exactly, but I haven't listened to it, but I'm pretty sure that's exactly what I said. But I disagree. I think that is part of the solution to their problem.
Dude, I had so much fun with last week's.
Yeah,
I had so much
fun.
fun. That was a real good episode. I had so much fun with it. And
I
I also
didn't want
like
to apologize because I
Oh,
thought about
psh.
that after the episode. I'm like, nah, he was right about that one. I was
Appreciate it, man. Like I said, I'm just a proprietor on people learning how to learn. That's all it is, man. Just learn how to learn and learn, and we've all talked about it. We all know about the misinformation. We all know that there's things that are wrong that are out there.
It's not just vaccines or pharmaceuticals.
Right. Just in general, man. Just in general. Yeah.
So ever since our last podcast, I was doing a lot of research. Okay.
Ooh.
Interesting.
One of the things that I was listening to Rogan. Actually, no. I like ancient history. It's been my thing. It's always been my thing. I question every day of should I have gone into history? Like I had planned initially. Well, not initially.
So you majored in history, right?
Double major. Yeah, then I had to choose either business or history, and I chose business. So was reading about listening to videos about ancient civilizations, and there was this one that was like just seemed so outlandish to me. The headline was the Anunnaki, the astronaut space gods of the Sumerians. I'm like, what the hell is this, right? So I click on it. Now I've read before that I was listening to the Epic of Gilgamesh, okay, which I've read that tale. I've read some of the Near Eastern stuff. It's always interesting how the Bible and the Sumerians and the Babylonians and the Hebrews, all that stuff kind of intersects, right? They all have they have the flood. They have a lot of things in common. Okay. Anyway, it's an important fact. So then going to the Anunnaki, I click on this. I'm listening to it. So there is a Sumerian tale, I guess, sort of almost like a creation tale. The Anunnaki were a race of aliens that lived on a planet called, I don't know. I can't recall. And they were facing essentially climate change and stuff like that, right? So the resources they were going to have a lot of resources, all this kind of stuff. What they realized is they needed gold in order to repel some like the UV radiation or something like that, right? And so what they did was every like 3,600 years, this planet circles and gets close to Earth. And what they did was they sent out aliens to basically go farm for gold. So they come to Earth, they're farming for gold. They start a city called, I can't remember, I think it was like Eridu or something like that. And they have in this city, they have a garden, okay, which is like has all these animals. It's like beautiful. This garden is called, guess, what do you think this garden is called?
Garden of Eden.
Exactly. Okay. So they bring with them these slaves of aliens called like the Igigi. Okay. There's a rebellion, they revolt, they get, there's a big war or whatever. A lot of the Anunnaki die, a lot of the Igigi die. The Anunnaki are like, well, we kind of need new slaves now, or like a new source of labor. So what they do is they take, I guess, like apes or whatever, or animals, and they essentially mix their DNA with that. And by the way, I encourage everyone to like actually do a little bit more research, because my cliff notes might not be totally accurate, but they create humans more or less. They end up liking the humans. They allow the humans to live within their city. They even allow some of the humans to live within Eden. They tell the humans don't really multiply that much. Humans do, and all that kind of stuff. Well, anyway, at a certain point, these Anunnaki decide that they're going to go back to space. Okay. And before they do, they teach people about science and mathematics and language and all these kinds of things. They also teach people how to build the ziggurats. Are you familiar with like what the ziggurats are?
Nope.
Nope.
So the ziggurat's basically a temple, right? And these temples are sort of like in a pyramid. They have like sharp staircases and all this kind of stuff. They're also like aligned to stars, right? Or they have to do with the stars in some form or fashion. What was interesting to me was that ziggurats, if you look at a ziggurat or any animation or any picture you see of a ziggurat, it looks similar to what we see in South America. The way that those like are kind of like in a pyramid, and like they have like those sharp staircases with like kind of like terraces or tiers. Also, of course, the most obvious thing is the pyramids in Egypt, which are obviously, they're like the triangles or whatever the hell a pyramid, I guess, would be the geometric shape. So they're aligned to the stars, right? They're supposed to be in like the formation of Orion and all that. We know there's some sort of astrology there or astronomy related there. What's also interesting though, right, is they're like, okay, well, the Sumerians never came in contact, as far as we know, with the people in South America. The ziggurats are very similar to the temples that they have in South America. They both have to do with, I believe there's like some sort of thing to do with the stars for both. What's also interesting is the fact that in this tale, these Anunnaki came here looking for gold. Well, okay, so now if you look at all these civilizations where there's a lot of gold, you start to see that there's like these like alien contacts. Again, look at Sumerians, look at South America. There's the fabled city of El Dorado. They had a ton of gold, and the New World had a ton of gold. That's why Spain came over. So what was interesting to me, it was like, okay, two civilizations don't have contact, have similar architectures. There's gold. There's stories about gods coming from the sky, like returning and all this kind of stuff. So to me, that kind of struck me as like, it's an interesting coincidence when it comes to just the thought of aliens and any type of alien origination theory. So that's the alien talk. And that was
I
less
was
than
just
8
trying to stay
minutes, I
silent
think.
for a second.
I think that was
So basically they expedited human evolution. And I know Rogan talks about this. There's some theories behind that. I think he mentions the Anunnaki when he talks about
well,
that.
they made humans.
Well, expedited
wait.
evolution
Wait.
from
So-
apes
I
to
guess that would.
So
Yeah.
let me
I
get
don't know if
this
they I don't
clear.
know if they took apes. I may fuck that up. But they basically made humans in some way with part of
So
their DNA.
these Anunnaki folks are aliens,
Correct.
and they made humans. And
To
the
be
theory
slaves.
is the theory is that because two different sets of humans in two different areas built things the same and focused on stars and gold, they came from the Anunnaki.
Well, I guess my theory wasn't that they both came from the Anunnaki. I just thought it was very interesting that. Well, I guess kind of. I thought it was
I mean,
interesting.
I guess
that,
I'm just I'm a little I got lost. I got lost. I'm not gonna lie to you. I got lost.
No worries, no worries. So architecture is very similar. Okay. They've not come in contact. Architecture is similar. There's an obsession with the stars among multiple cultures, all with these like pyramidic, whatever the hell word, terraced, tiered type architectures. The gold part is also interesting because it's like they came to Earth looking for gold, And when you think about a civilization that had a ton of gold, you think of the South American civilizations like the Aztecs, the Incas, right? The fabled city of El Dorado, like I said. So it's like interesting that gold brought the Anunnaki here in this legend. There is the place you think of when you think of a lot of gold. They have similar architecture to the Sumerians, who the Sumerians, per legend, were taught how to build the ziggurats. So ipso facto, the Incas and Aztecs would have been taught how to build something similar as well. And maybe that is why there's a similarity between what they built in South America and what they built in the ancient Near East. Now, I'm not sitting here saying, hey, I think we descended from aliens. I'm just saying it's an interesting coincidence, something to consider. I personally would do more research on.
I'm just picturing the dude with the crazy hair from the History Channel. That means
aliens. Yeah.
Aliens.
Yep.
So I think what's interesting is this theory that they why did they come every 3,600 years again? They would.
That was the orbit.
But
they were close to Earth.
They would come and then leave. They'd be here for a certain
amount
of time.
They came. They were close to Earth, so I guess they just sent people to look for gold because they needed gold to fight essentially their version of global warming. But
only for a certain period of time. Like it would be like 100 years. They would be here. They'd farm gold, head back to their planet.
No, I don't think there was. I mean, maybe I have to read the tale more, but I don't think there was like a. I don't think there was like a timeline like, hey, you're going to Earth for 100 years. I think it was like, hey, guys, we're all going to die. So go out and find a bunch of gold so we can.
Oh, it's a one-time thing.
Yeah, they needed it to survive.
But it was a one-time. It wasn't every 3,600 years. It was.
The orbit is every 3,600 years.
Yeah, gotcha.
But them going out for gold was like, it was like, I guess a one-time thing.
Save the Anunnaki species.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
So 3,600 years ago? When did this all supposedly take place?
Should we be seeing them again soon?
So that's the question. It would have been more than 3,600 years ago because the ancient Sumerians were around, I guess. I mean, how old are the pyramids? They're over 4,000 years old, right?
It's questionable. People say I think like 6,000, but some people think they're much older.
Yeah, that's insane, dude. Also, it's like, how the fuck? Because we're asking ourselves, like, how did they get? If you look at the pyramids, there's like 5 levels to it. Inside, like above the king's chamber, somebody was saying. And there's like these like beams almost made of stone that are like 72 tons. Again, I might be completely screwing up the numbers here, but everyone's like, how did they do that? How did they get this stone from like 250 miles to the south to Giza and build these things? And plus, how do they cut the stone?
So did you hear some of Rogan's theories or some of the
that one guy? Yeah, dude, they talked about how they had a way of cutting stone that was more efficient and better than what we had in the 80s.
So I was just Googling it. It seemed like National Geographic, everybody thinks the pyramids are 4,500 years old. But what Rogan was saying and some other people have said that he's talked to was that it's actually much older. And the reason why they think that is because of some of like the erosion patterns on the and there hasn't been water there forever, right? They there's some erosion patterns on some of the pyramids.
Yeah.
And there hasn't been water in X amount of years. And the erosion that's there couldn't have happened, prior to that in the 4,500 years. So they're thinking they're like 10 or 15 or much older, thousands of years old. So I thought that was interesting. And part of what they thought, somebody theorized on how they built it is that area is actually like an old, I want to say lake bed, but like an old sea or something, right? That potentially they built them while there was still water there. And they brought some of the blocks in on barge type things or boats, which is interesting.
That'd be a huge boat. How do you even get it on the boat?
Well, there were it's not the whole ones, like pieces of it.
Most of the blocks weren't that big. They're only 2.5 tons, if I remember right.
No, but these beams that are like in the king's chamber, they're saying those are like the 72-ton beams. It's like insane.
Yeah, but if you think about it, what if the water theory holds? What if it's like an iceberg idea where the beam it was at sea level, so there wasn't much lifting involved. So they built like an above water level at the beam and then a below water level at the beam. And then the water went away.
I still think it was aliens, but I'm just trying to think of how it could not have been aliens.
Like, how do you living in the new world, dude? It's like if you look at again, like how some of the structures were made, even here, we're like, how do they cut the stone? How do they make it like fit perfectly? There's no mortar. They're staying together. These things are like perfect. and it's beyond scientific explanation.
I mean, we could build it nowadays. We could if we.
Well,
Bro,
I
I've been
suppose we
on
could,
construction
yeah.
projects where we
I think
built
I would.
things that
I think I would listen to the engineer on this one. I'm
Yeah.
just spitballing.
Yeah,
Just
but dude,
spitballing.
like
we
72.
could if we wanted to, but there's no fucking reason to build them.
There's higher technology now. Why would we?
Who's gonna pay for it? For what's the reason?
Cheaper. There's cheaper, more efficient ways to do things.
Well,
Absolutely.
yeah, but there's also things we can't explain per modern engineering. There's things in science we can't explain, right? How did they make Greek fire? How did the Romans like Roman concrete? Why is that so good? Or
I mean, what if it's just a dead art though?
part of the
What,
reason
have
why
you ever thought of that though? Like,
But why can't we figure that out?
Part of the no, we can. Part of the reason why our concrete doesn't last so long is because it's designed to have a specific life frame because of its cost, right? If cost wasn't an object, you could put certain admixtures in the concrete that would make it last almost essentially forever. But because we're designing a bridge for 100 years or 50 years, they design it knowing that potentially some short time frame after that it could potentially fail. You're going to get to the reinforcement in the concrete and the rebar is going to corrode or something.
Yeah, but like chemically, we can't figure some of these things out.
No, I think we could. It's just cost. There's no reason.
You mean there's a cost?
Why would we? Again, why would we? We found something that works. Why worry about something that? Why put the time and effort, money, all of that into? I mean, you're talking multi-millions.
It's like a mystery, though. It's like a mystery. Like, why are we putting effort into the Big Bang? We're already
mysteries don't make money, dude. That's just a sad fact of life. Mysteries don't make money. It's cool. It's fun. It's interesting. They don't make money.
When they built things thousands of years ago, they weren't building for a design life, right? And I assume cost was less of an issue because of slavery and fucking.
Yeah, that's true.
Can you imagine if the mortar was actually just like human bones ground up? And that's just why it lasted for so long. I only said that half joke. Like, yes, it's a joking matter, but could you imagine like that's what they finally figured out? They're like, human bones. If we mash them together with this water, this paste will last forever.
Yeah, that'd be fucking terrible. But anyway, that's the tale of the Anunnaki. That was kind of the Cliff Notes version. Hopefully, it was mostly accurate. But it was just very interesting because there were some coincidences that, I mean, maybe I'm stretching a little bit here, but there are things I'm like, interesting. How do they do that? Maybe there's something to it. Because there's so many cultures, even like, I believe like in Hinduism, there was like a story about like a floating fortress, right? In the Bible, Moses they follow like what? Like the cloud, I think it is. Right. There's like all these tales from different cultures about something in the sky, something floating, obviously higher beings.
It's always up high. You ever notice that? So that's why when I was in Greece, they always talk about how like temples and whatnot to the gods, they always built up high because you wanted to be closer to the gods. And they always believed that the gods were above them. So like that's why the Acropolis is as high up in Athens, because they wanted to be as close to the gods as they could.
Yeah, my one buddy made a good point though, because he was like, because I was talking to him a little bit about this. He's like, we live on the ground, so people have always been obsessed with flight or things up there. But I don't think that explains. I mean, still, I think it's just curious that there's a lot of cultures that have these alien legends. Also, what's more, I also think is very interesting, right? Is the idea that Rogan talks about too is has civilization started over more than once?
Cataclysmic events. Ooh, I like that one.
Well, we know there's been some, right? We obviously people know about the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
That we know about. Well, we don't have a lot of details about, or like the sea peoples coming in and like essentially that's destroying everybody in the Near East. It came out of nowhere. We have no idea who they are. They slaughtered everybody, and that was kind of like a reset. So there's like definitely been times where civilizations have been reset. But you talk about like Atlantis. How come so many cultures talked about Atlantis? About being this like super high tech, and then all of a sudden that was gone. Then there's like the flood, the Great Flood, which we know there's proof of a Great Flood. Was it global?
Ice Age, all that type of stuff.
Yeah. Well, the Ice Age was what, 10,000 years ago?
I don't know.
No idea.
And then it was like, didn't the sea level rise like 400 feet or something like that?
Ice Ages began 2.4 million years ago and lasted until only 11,500 years ago. That's crazy.
So so the sea level rose like 400 feet or something like insane. It was like some crazy number. So if you're living like on the coast of Africa, right, then all of a sudden the sea and the ocean rises. Because did you watch the episode or listen to the episode about how somebody says there's the concentric circles and like Atlantis could be off of like, I don't know, like somewhere near West Africa, Northwest Africa. But that, I mean, obviously that's going to reset a lot of stuff.
It says it potentially rose almost 120 meters, roughly a meter per century.
So that's a lot. That's like 400 feet, right?
More, yeah.
There you go. So that's also interesting too. So it's kind of like you have these aliens, but then maybe it's not aliens, maybe it's people that were really advanced. And they were just coming in contact with not so advanced cultures. So
That's crazy.
yeah, interesting. So it's something I'm going to be studying more. I'm gonna once I finish the Civil War, I'm about a third of the way through that. Once I finish that, I'm going to hop back into, I think, some of the Near Eastern epics, and history, and just do some research, and then start to kind of map out where there's some overlap between Sumerians, Assyrians, Babylonians, Akkadians, Hebrews, obviously the Bible. Also, one other thing. Did you ever hear the theories about, or the stories about Jesus Christ going to India?
Mm-mm.
So this is what I'm kind of curious about, because there's like a period of time where you don't know what happened in Jesus's life. So people are saying he went over to India and he learned about Buddhism, and then he came back, and then he started teaching, like, and kind of, frankly, if you read the Bible and you go by the Bible says, and you don't really go by what different denominations say, right? Like their interpretation of it, if you just read the Bible, there's definitely some overlap between Buddhism and what Christ has said. But there's also people saying, like, after he rose again, he went to India or Pakistan. Either way, there's a tomb for Jesus in Kashmir.
Hmm.
Let's talk about that. Let me get a little more detail. Let's talk about that. But that kind of blew my mind too. That this is a real thing. There's actually a tomb for Jesus in Kashmir. Obviously, the Catholic Church and the churches don't like this. Isn't
Why
like
would they have
something
a
you're supposed to
tomb
talk
for him
about.
there?
Why would they have a tomb for him there? It's allegedly where he's buried. Allegedly where he's buried. Also, do you know Metatron, by the way? Do you ever watch
Megatron?
Metatron?
Oh no, sorry, I got
There's a
excited.
guy on YouTube. He's a Sicilian. He does a lot of history
Great
stuff.
movies.
Great movies, entertaining.
We're back on movies. Good job. Full circle.
But anyway, Shroud, go on YouTube, type in Metatron, META, Metatron, Shroud of Turin. And he does a phenomenal, I think it's about 40 minutes, so you get to like really have the time. But he does a breakdown on the Shroud of Turin, if it's real, if it's not real. He goes into the history and like what some of the people said about it, what some of the towns said about it, where it might have resided and how they might have used it. Blood and kind of like how it would be absorbed, water. So I think he's concluded that Jesus was a real figure.
Yeah, it was a street magician, right?
Possibly Seth. I mean, like, possibly.
Seth, you
But he
got
goes
things for magicians, if I remember correct.
Yeah, absolutely love him.
Seth and I were on a bar crawl a few years back. Rich and Seth fell in love with a magician at a bar.
Oh, I remember that. I remember you telling me about this.
He took my NJ Transit ticket and made it disappear and then made it reappear. Who wouldn't be turned on by that? Come on.
There you go. But yeah, look into that. But yeah, dude, also look into that if you have time, but look into the whole Kashmir Jesus tomb thing, because I never knew that until about a week ago.
That's interesting. I guess I don't know enough about Jesus to.
Rich just told you everything you need to know.
Yeah. So we'll have an episode, I think, on aliens, ancient Near East, and I'll include that as well.
Well, every episode is on aliens.
We actually are a podcast about aliens that occasionally talks about other things that are related to aliens.
When was the last time you guys just laid under the stars?
Dude, the other night.
Yeah.
Well, I was in an Adirondack chair. I wasn't laying, but dude, when was the last time you did it?
Probably within the last couple of weeks.
Isn't that like so refreshing?
Well, I don't know. I just obviously my favorite movie series is Star Wars. We talk a lot about aliens. And I think, you think about if we all, I believe that they're real. And if proof comes out that they are, like, what the fuck we're doing really doesn't matter. So you sit there thinking about it, like, Man, there's probably all kinds of civilizations out there. Shit,
Dude,
all kinds of life out there.
it's an existential moment for
It's
sure.
cool. I like it. I like
Absolutely.
doing that.
Makes you feel
Absolutely.
small. It's so good for my anxiety. When I'm like looking up there, I'm like, dude, anything that's bothering you right now,
Doesn't
like,
fucking matter.
you're not even a blip on the radar of like even the last 1,000 years of history, let alone like just the Earth's life.
Since the beginning of time, billions of
Yeah.
years.
Exactly.
So inconsequential, right? So, but like looking up at the stars with her the other night, and we're like, oh, like looking for shooting stars, or look, there's a satellite. But like I thought to myself, like, dude, before we had this, like people back in the day, right? Like what did you do? Like I could think about people in like Babylon sitting on top of a rooftop or whatever. And there's like the oil lanterns and all that, but they're just like looking up at the stars.
Right.
And you got to wonder what they're thinking. Like, that some of them were talking about, well, it's a blanket with holes poked in it and heaven's above that. And that's the light from heaven shining through. It's just like, this is space. And this is something that people have been so connected to literally since the beginning of time. And fires too. Like you look into a fire, don't you just like love
Oh
sitting around
yeah.
a fire? There's something so therapeutic about it. Telling stories, dude. People love because that's all you did. That
Yeah.
you sat around a fire, you told stories.
Yeah, before written language. I mean, right? That's what happened. That's how most of I assume that's how much like history before
Dude, you
like
had nothing to do
recent
besides
history.
pick your ass and look at a fire and tell stories. Like there
Right.
literally is nothing to do. But you're hardwired to all of those things. And when I looked at the stars, I literally said to her, why don't we do this more often? Like I'll literally buy a tent with like a bug net or something so we could just like sit out here and just look at the stars like more twice a week. I don't know, however often, but like it's so therapeutic. And I haven't done that for years. The first time I ever saw more than like 12 or 13 stars at a time, by the way, I was like 21.
Yeah,
And that
because
was
you were stuck
It's
in this
ridiculous.
armpit.
It's
because of New York City.
ridiculous.
Because of
I
New York
literally
City.
grew up with it. That's ridiculous.
Dude,
It's
it
ridiculous.
was the most beautiful. I looked up there,
What are those white things in the sky?
yeah. Oh, dude, it was incredible. I remember there was like little like almost like tints of green or like different colors almost. Like the sky just like takes on almost different colors. And there's a million stars. And I was in upstate New York. It was pitch black. You look up, a million stars. You look down, a million fireflies. It was
That's
like,
cool.
yeah, dude, it was almost like you were in like just like this black globe with a million just lights like shining. It was the most surreal thing, man. One of like the top moments of my life, literally, because it's like a new experience. You'll never like when you're a kid, right? And you see all those stars at once, that probably gets lost on you, right? But when you're an adult and you've not seen like more than like a dozen or 14 stars, whatever the number is,
I can't
until you're
imagine.
older.
Yeah, I
Yeah, that's
can't
weird.
imagine.
I can't imagine having not seen that.
Dude,
I
there
used
was
to
New
just
York
go out to my
City, there was
backyard and
Newark.
watch meteor showers. Like that was a normal thing. There was no issue with all that.
No, dude, it was like I had the Big Dipper, Little Dipper. That was about it. North
New York
Star.
City.
Yeah,
The
there was
biggest
Newark,
star
New
you
York,
need, New
Warsaw.
York City. All right.
So yeah, never got to see it. But anyway, all right, fellas, I think it was a good podcast. It's a good episode.
Good episode.
Now I
Yeah.
get
All right,
to
what
go pack for
are we
vacation.
doing normal day next week? You can cut this.
What next Wednesday?
Yeah.
What is that? The
I-
5th?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be on vacation, but I can probably make it work.
If you need to just do like a guest spot too, we could throw that up where like Rich and I get it going, and then if you pop in type deal too.
Yeah, well, we'll see how it goes. But if we just plan on regular time, regular day, I can probably jump on.
You got that, Riz? Regular time, regular day, no shoving meat in your mouth.
So 7:45.
7:45.
7:45.
All right,
All right,
boys.
boys.
Talk to
Have
you
a good
soon.
one.
Bye.